we open the meeting up, Greg?
Well, okay, the meeting's officially going right now. I've been working on, in between problems with mom and stuff, I've been working on my old laptop, which I still have. And the specs, by the way, if anybody's interested in what the new iOS is going to be like and you want a preview of it, you can go to beta.apple.com and become a registered beta software tester if you want to. Just be aware, on the Mac, it's not much of an issue, because you can always back your Mac up and get it back to the previous operating system. You can always, by restoring it from your backup. On a phone or an iPad, it's a little bit more of an issue, but now it exists. The beta software is out there for everybody. So what I thought I was going to do is I thought, well, I've still got my old 15-inch MacBook. I'll go ahead and load Big Sur, the next version of Mac OS, which is due mid-September or so, on this thing. And I'm having some issues. And according to what Rene Ritchie says, by the way, he's got he's independent now, so you can go to YouTube and type in Rene Ritchie, and he's done about every 2 or 3 days. He does a 15-minute review on. He's done it on the new iOS. He's done it on the new Apple Watch. He's done it on the new iMac coming out. He's done it on what he thinks the new Macintosh Apple chip-based Macintoshes are going to be like. So that's kind of interesting. That's a freebie on YouTube, Rene Ritchie.
How do you spell it?
How do you spell Richie?
Richie.
Okay, got it.
But is Renee, is it 2 E's on the end or one?
No, it's one. It's got the little
Okay.
like but YouTube will figure it out. That's not
Right. Yeah. Well, I understand that. But is it one word, Rene Ritchie?
No, it's in the case if you just go to YouTube itself and then in YouTube's search bar type in Rene Ritchie, just get it. It's 2 words. But if you get it anywhere close, it's going to find it. It's not a problem.
Okay.
And he is really, you'll get his plug for Brilliant or whoever hell he's pushing. You'll get about a minute plug towards the end. But he always does the commercials at the end so that you can always bypass them if you need to. But he's been really good about what he thinks is going to be a positive and a negative. He's got some negatives about some of the things. I mean, I learned at the last meeting there used to be a feature. It's not in Mojave, in Catalina, I mean, but there used to be a feature that if you plugged in your iPhone or your iMac with the USB cable or whatever combination you needed to get it to your Macintosh, you could start up a QuickTime Movie. You could go into QuickTime Movie. You could pick that item and display your iPad or your Mac onto your iPad or your iPhone onto the screen of your Macintosh, which was great for making a video or something like that. And in the past, I've done that a few times. Guess what? They took that feature out of Catalina. That's why I couldn't get it to work last month. And I did find a workaround for it, but it's lame. Is what I would have to do is if I wanted to show my iPhone or my iPad screen, I have to become a Zoom user and just share it as a regular share screen. That's doable, but it's lame that Apple took what I thought was a really useful feature out. And there's a couple of third-party utilities that supposedly give that feature back in, and they both don't work with Zoom so far. So that's one of the things that I'm not looking forward to when the new OS comes out, is that something you get used to that you really like. Apple, for whatever in their infinite wisdom, why they don't give us a toggle to go one way or the other way, chooses to, like, I'm not a real fan of the transparent backgrounds on, like, trying to read text and stuff like that, because quite honestly, my vision is not as good as it used to be. I find about 90% of the websites I go to, I have to either zoom up on the text because the contrast isn't great enough. And if I adjust the contrast to where I can see the text easier, it's like they're using a gray text rather than a black text. If I adjust the contrast where I can see that, then the rest of the colors of the monitor suck. So I try not to do that. I just find it's easier to leave the shortcuts up and zoom up on the screen and read it and then zoom it back out. Well, that's lame. I shouldn't have to do that. So I thought, gee, this would be perfect. I'll load this up on the old MacBook Pro while I've still got it.
Greg,
Yeah, go ahead.
I think I may have told you this in the past, but since you're talking about maybe, I think you're talking about running the beta for Big Sur as well as.
That's what I was going to do on the older Macintosh.
Okay.
And you know what? The documents say it can't work on a 2012 model. It says it has to be a 2013. I think they're
let
wrong.
me just tell you, caution you, have really good backups before you do this.
Bruce, I was going to put it on my old MacBook, which I don't use anymore.
Oh, okay. Then you should be
Yeah,
okay.
I believe me, I made that mistake like you're going to talk about.
Have good backups on that too, if there's anything on there you value at all.
Don't rely on Time Machine. Use Super Duper or Copy Cloner, Carbon Copy Cloner.
All right. Then you should be fine. Let me just tell you as briefly as I can about when, I don't know if it was Sierra or High Sierra, the one where they started to come out with the new file system, APFS.
Right. Oh, that's even earlier than that. That's
right.
back like at Mavericks time.
Maybe it was the one before Sierra, but whichever one it was, they were introducing APFS as part of the rollout of this beta version of that version of the operating system. And my friend Rick Thews, some of you may know Rick Thews, the iMentor.
Yeah.
Anyway, he by the way, just recently retired about a week or two ago, finally. But anyway, this was back a few years when they started APFS. And he said, it's my practice, as a Mac consultant, because that's what he did. He went around to people's homes and tutored them and fixed their problems and stuff. It's my practice as a consultant to test new software so that I know what's going on before my customers have it in their hands, And so he went to install the beta of whatever particular release of the Mac operating system this was. And he had good backups. I mean, he had Time Machine. I think he had clones too. And so he went ahead and installed it on his iMac, which was one of his main machines, not a spare that he doesn't use like you have, Greg. It was an important machine to him. And he had a bunch of problems with it. First problem was after the installer finished, he had 4 accounts to start with, 4 Mac OS 10 or OS login accounts for the operating system when he started. When he got done, there were only 2 of the accounts. It didn't bring the other 2 over, or didn't create them or whatever. So he lost 2 accounts. That was problem number 1. Problem number 2 is his model iMac is one that has the Apple Fusion drive, the hybrid drive that has part solid state and part rotating mechanical drive. I'm sure most of you have heard of that, right? And the way Apple does it normally, it looks all like one drive to the operating system and when it mounts on your desktop. And his did too, but after he did this update, it split and he had 2 different drives mounted on his desktop, one for the solid state part, one for the mechanical part. And putting those 2 back together takes a Unix command, and it's a very hairy command. He didn't do it. He didn't feel comfortable in Unix, I guess, or didn't value the drive enough. But anyway, so he decided just to live with the drive problem. And he sent me a link to a place where they showed the actual command, and it uses the disk-util underlying Unix command that's also used by the disk utility GUI program. And this command, I mean, I would be hesitant to enter or fiddle with this command if it were me, without really good backups of the beforehand and hope that the after works. So he just left it. I think to this day, he's probably got the 2 separate drives. But I don't know what he did about the other accounts, but he had problems because it reformatted the internal drive for APFS, and somewhere in that process, it split the drives, or split the drive into the 2 parts, And so, okay, he had backups. He had trouble restoring from them too, because I guess Time Machine didn't know, or at least wherever he ran it from, didn't know about the APFS format or something. I think he ended up either booting from into recovery mode in order to run Time Machine, or from another drive or something, but somehow I think he was able to finally run Time Machine and get back. But he had a lot of hassle, and at the time he wrote about it on his blog, and I thought, wow, he's a pretty smart guy. He's not, just average Mac user Joe. So that's just a cautionary tale, that I thought after that, boy, it's good to really be careful when you're if you're going to install beta software. You can't be too careful.
No, and
What you're doing is smart. Run it on a machine you don't even use.
well, and here's a second problem, because I thought, hey, no big deal. I'll put it on a second drive and boot to that drive.
Oh, that's another option, yeah.
And that should have worked also. But I found out Apple screwed up somewhere along the line. I've never been able to get them to admit it. What a surprise. That if you sign up for the beta program and you download a beta version, from that point on, unless even when so let's say as an example, right now you get the beta version of Big Sur, which is coming out mid to late September, supposedly. And there'll probably be another update between now and then on the beta mode. So you'll go ahead and get that. Now comes September and the real version comes out. If the real version hasn't got a distinctive point difference in its naming convention, or however the hell it works, from the beta version is the version you stay with, because every time you try to upgrade to the new version, it says, well, you've got the latest version.
You've already got it. It won't let you.
And it was hell last year when I did this. The beta version was working fine, but of course, when the legitimate big one becomes available, I wanted to run the legitimate version.
But if you install it on a spare drive or a computer you don't use,
it hassled me every time. I finally ended up having to wipe the entire computer completely, so that it didn't. And after I got out of the beta program, because it had my name still associated with the beta program. So here's what I intended to do this time: was create a brand new Mac account. A lot of you know I use the old Johnny Carson joke name, Floyd R. Turbo. So that was going to be my name. I've already created a Mac account called Floyd Turbo, and I was going to log into that Macintosh. I can't use my iPhone because it's got my Greg Locke ID on that one. So I just told him, I just told it I didn't have an iPhone to be able to use, and I wasn't going to use the second factor authentication because I didn't have any devices. I didn't have any iPhones or iPads around that I didn't want to get changed. So my intent is to test this out, and I'm still going to do it.
You also have to be careful about what Apple ID you use, or maybe
That's what I mean.
better yet,
create a brand new Apple ID.
Or just don't use an Apple ID at all. Just when it asks you the question, keep telling it, no, I have no Apple ID.
No, but the Apple ID doesn't have to be Apple.
No, I don't want to create one.
Right. It could be anything. You can have as many Apple IDs as you want.
Right, but you can tell it no, and no, I don't have one, and no, I don't want to make a new one, and eventually it should let you install without that, and then you're fine.
It's a real pain. It's easier to create a dummy one, and just be aware that, okay, I don't care about put all the applications that are new with Big Sur or whatever. I don't care about any of my documents. No, I don't have anything up in the iCloud that I have to worry about, because I totally understand what Apple's trying to do, but for anybody who's got any brains, with anybody who belongs to any kind of a club who's got brains a little bit towards Mac, you don't want it doing everything for you that you're not aware of. So that's just one of those things. I made that last year. I'll never make that mistake again.
Greg, I think Frank Mossberger might have had some comments.
Go ahead. Sorry about that, Frank.
Frank, were you going to make some comments about some of this?
No, I've just been listening.
So,
He's lurking in the background.
He's lurking with his video off.
okay, I got a problem here with APFS. The September 2020 issue of Mac Life on page 68 has a thing here. I'll read it. Catalina in particular makes changes to the structure of existing backups which prevent you from accessing them from older versions of Mac OS and Time Machine. Bottom line, consider archiving all those old backups and starting a fresh set for Catalina, which can save time and trouble. So it looks like this APFS is forcing us to make some big decisions on archiving our old backups, buying another hard drive or SSD and starting over if you're going to enter the modern era using APSF, right?
Well, Phil, you can still use disk utility to format in the HFS Plus mode. Best of my knowledge, Bruce, you can still do that. It's just Apple recommends you to go to the new file system. Am I right?
I think that's true. You can. It just tends to force. I don't know if it forces you, but it tends to make you prefer, or it tends to prefer, the new APFS system. But you can override or get around that. But this is the first I'd heard of that, Phil.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that one because I've been
magazine
APFS for
was
years.
that again?
September 2020 issue of Mac Life magazine, page 68. Yeah, I just got it yesterday.
I have not subscribed to that in a while. Is that a print edition?
Yeah, but I think
I'm going to have to try to find that.
Online also.
I'm sure it's on Google.
You can get it both ways. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I want to get that article. And
Same here because I wasn't aware of that issue. I want to, because I've been APFS for years, but I always format all my, with the exception of the built-in solid state drive, I format all my drives in HFS Plus.
I respect that magazine. They're almost like, you might as well say Macworld, and their opinion and stuff they write is generally very knowledgeable and very trustworthy. So that's good to hear. I had not heard that, but I'm glad.
Yeah, I'm going to have to read that also.
Yeah.
Was this in Macworld? Was this in the Macworld magazine?
The Macworld magazine doesn't exist anymore.
Okay. Well, what magazine was it?
Mac Life.
Mac Life.
Mac Life. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So thanks for Phil. Thanks for bringing it to everyone.
Yeah, because I'll definitely look that article up and read it too.
Let's see. Hold it up a little higher so we can see the photo under, or the graphic underneath the title. Phil.
I used
Raise
to
it up
take
a little
that.
bit.
See it?
Up a little. Yeah. Raise it up higher. Higher.
Yeah, so it's almost a year ago.
It says Big Sur in big letters on the front. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Sure.
That's very useful.
Yeah.
If it's not too long, maybe if it's just a couple pages, you could scan it and send it. Or
Oh, my scanner doesn't work. The scanning software suddenly went south.
what about
Oh.
you got an iPhone or an iPad that you can take pictures of it with?
Yeah. Yeah.
It won't be perfect. It won't be perfect. There might be some distortion, but it might be adequate for reading the text of it.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
If it's
I'll do
not
that.
too
I'll
long.
give that a try, and I'll.
Yeah, I'm guessing an article like that wouldn't be more than a couple pages, so it wouldn't be too hard to,
And that's one new feature that's coming out in both the iOS update and the new Mac update is you'll be able to, you can take pictures with your phone for a lot of reasons, obviously. But then you have to use AirDrop or whatever to get them onto your Mac, or you have to email them to yourself or whatever to get them over there. Apparently, there's going to be, I forget whether it's called whether it's part of handoff or what's the other one now? I just thought of it. Begins with the C, connectivity or whatever the hell it is. But you'll be able to pick your iPhone up, take a picture of it, and the Mac, and it will give you the option to send it directly to the Mac rather than keeping it on the iPhone.
Yeah.
That'll be a poor man's scanner that goes directly to the Mac.
Handy.
That'll be real handy.
Real handy for those of us who have both an iPhone or iPad and a Mac, which is probably everybody in this meeting right now.
Yeah, for the most part.
Can I try to show you something on the Zoom screen?
Yeah, please do, Roger.
It's my iPad, and it's got a problem. I don't know how to do this.
You might have to turn off your virtual background because it's
No,
up.
this is it. I don't know where. I don't know. I'm trying to show you the screen, and I don't know where to place it.
Yeah. What's happening is the virtual background is erasing your iPad. So you need to temporarily go into the video option down there on the bottom and turn off your virtual background.
Yeah, go into Zoom preferences and then the video tab and turn off temporarily the virtual background.
Switch it to none.
That's up in preferences.
That's
Or you have the
Yeah.
little button down there in the bottom that says stop video.
on the Mac
Click on the up arrow.
On the Mac in the Mac application version of Zoom.
Oh, I see the stop video.
Yeah, click on the up caret, and there's an option that says virtual background, and you can switch it to none temporarily.
I get you. My finger is sticky. Well, it says video settings, choose virtual.
Choose virtual background. Click on that.
Yeah. Okay.
And now you get the default ones that they've got plus any that you've added, and click on select the one that's none.
Well, I shouldn't have brought this up. I'm having a lot of problems. Oh, I see what you're saying. I knew that.
There you go. Now hold
I
up
knew
your
all of
iPad.
that. I just didn't understand your
That's all right.
vocabulary.
Right.
Well,
I knew that. I knew that.
this
We've
is,
all said that before.
I have
Oh, I knew that.
I have Safari turned on my iPad, and as you can see,
The keyboard split.
keyboard down has split into two pieces since I upgraded a couple days ago. I upgraded, and I can't get the keypad back in one piece again anymore, and I don't know why. This is an older iPad. It's version 9. It's one of the earliest minis that there was.
Probably the easiest fix is you go to the hardware store, you get yourself a jigsaw, you cut your iPad down the middle into two pieces, and you glue it back together again, and that fixes the problem.
Okay.
You got a test from the keyboard though in the settings, in general settings?
Well,
I'm not sure. Greg, do you know how to put the keyboard back in one?
I've had that mistake and I can't remember. I'm looking it up
I
right
have
now.
not used that feature. I have a regular standard size iPad, but I've never used the split keyboard, so I don't know how to turn it on and off. I'm sure
Hi.
there's a way, but I'll see if I can find it on.
Okay, it says how to split the keyboard. While your fingers just.
Well, that should also tell you how to unsplit it.
I realize that. So it
How to
says
put it
what you
back.
do is you press and hold the keyboard key, launch the app that you're in or whatever, press and hold the keyboard key in the lower right corner of the keyboard. Do you see that, Roger?
well, I gotta turn I have to turn it back on
There's
again.
unlock, undock, split, and floating on mine.
Right.
Now,
I don't have my
what's-
iPad in front of me, so I can't look. So I'm looking at it on Google search.
Did you say the left-hand side or the right-hand side?
It says on the lower right corner
Lower
of
right.
your keyboard, there should be the icon for the keyboard.
There's a little
While your
icon
finger
for
is
the
still on that
keyboard
key,
and the down
swipe up and tap. Swipe up.
Oh, it says, oh goodness, it says it has two options, dock and merge, and then just plain merge.
Yep. There you go.
There, so merge would probably
Merge would probably be the one you
want.
want.
Merge, pick merge and see if that fixes it.
Well, the options disappear when I lift my finger up.
You have to
Use my-
slide while you hold your finger
Yeah,
down.
I think you have to
Ah.
slide up and do it.
Oh, you guys are brilliant. I'm so glad I belong
No,
to
we're not.
this
We
Oh,
club.
Google is.
We
Google's
just
your
read a
friend,
lot and
remember.
we're
It's back
dangerous.
together
We try out
again.
we try a lot of dangerous stuff, and sometimes it gets us in trouble, and we have to figure it all
You
out.
see, that's why I belong to
Read a
join
lot.
this club. You helped me. I'm just
I
an
got a question.
ordinary.
I got a question.
Go ahead, Lloyd.
Malware, adware, virus. What's the latest thinking and the best protection for the Mac?
I wish Robert were here, but I think what Robert would say if he was here, that
Don't
you
use
still
any of
don't
them.
really need antivirus software on your Mac.
How about
I think-
malware?
Well, same thing. I mean, it's
Rare. For the most part, it still seems to be that there's not enough
it's
people out there
not
using
that,
Macintoshes to make it worthwhile to go
it's
after.
not that there isn't some good anti-malware software for the Mac. There is, if you're careful when you shop for it. The problem is that any anti-malware software can interfere with other things. It first of all, it takes a certain amount of processor time because most anti-malware software wants to run some sort of program in the background all the time to check for suspicious activity and files that are being tampered with or getting downloaded that maybe shouldn't be, and so on. So it will always use some resources.
I
But
have,
apart from that, be aware, Lloyd, you should be aware that Apple, for several major releases of the Mac operating system, has this thing called XProtect, or what's the marketing name, Greg, that's
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, under
Now my
the,
brain's starting to go too.
it's Gatekeeper, I think.
Gate, that's it, Gatekeeper.
And I believe under the hood, Gatekeeper is called XProtect. I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe those two are one and the same. If you see it in the security and privacy settings of your Mac,
To go into system, you go
in the
into system preferences.
it's called Gatekeeper, if it's there, depending on which version of the operating system you might
Yeah,
not
I can tell you,
see
it's not called that in Catalina.
Okay.
You
And
still go to
under the-
security and privacy, but where the hell is it?
Under the hood, it's
file,
called
file vault.
Under the hood, it's called XProtect, and if you look into it a little bit, like I have, there's some files there that, believe it or not, Apple updates without your knowledge or permission in most cases, although you may have given it permission once and only once when you installed the operating system or made a major update. There may have been a box there that you checked or failed to uncheck that made it active. And once you do that, it will automatically download and install things to protect you against the most critical and most important types of malware that Apple's aware of, and they update it whenever they need to. Sometimes frequently, and sometimes not so frequently, depends on what malware they find out about and what.
Where do you find that? Where do you find that?
It's
Where do
in,
you find that?
you go into system preferences,
Well,
and it's under security and privacy. And I think it falls under file vault nowadays, Bruce, if I'm not mistaken.
that's a good question. I'm not
Which
sure.
is by default turned on the newest operating systems. You can turn it off, but by default it's turned on.
It's you turn it on and it's going to automatically encrypt your disk.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, you won't notice it, but anything else would.
Right, and if you want to see it under the hood, I can tell you where it is, at least in some versions, but I don't think that's necessary, and you shouldn't be messing around with those files if you know it's good for you. It's okay to look at them, just don't change them or modify them or rename them or move them. And the way I know, for example, when they've updated it is I just go look at those files and I look at the date of last modification. And if I see it's newer than what I remember from before, I know that somewhere in there, Apple has silently under the hood updated those files over the internet. And I'm very grateful that Apple does all that. We don't have the problems Windows users have, largely because of that and other things like it that Apple does on our behalf.
I've been using Malwarebytes, and I've helped quite a few people and run Malwarebytes on their computer and find mostly adware as opposed to malware.
Right.
And it cleans it off.
Well,
pretty good.
so you're recommending that one? You're recommending that one?
I like Malwarebytes.
Okay.
It has two options. One, you can get the free option, and then you have to remember periodically to run the scan, or you can pay, I think, $30 a year or something like that.
39.
And you can
And it runs in
run in the
background
for you.
Okay.
You can also get it on your iPhone for a little less than that per month.
The other thing I would say about that is Apple, especially in recent times, like over the last year or so, but even before then, has been updating Safari to make it more and more resistant to problems with security and privacy. And they have been very aggressive over the last year or two about that when they make updates to Safari, the web browser, on the Mac and also on mobile devices too. But so that, for example, third-party cookies are not the worst thing in the world, but they're, you can turn that off manually, but they're now making it harder for things like third-party cookies and other third-party stuff to happen without your knowledge, at least.
As a matter of fact, Bruce, there's a new feature that's going to be in Safari on the Mac. I don't know if it's going to be that way on the iPad and the iPhone, but on one of the new features on Safari on the Mac on the next operating system is every website you go to, there'll be an option up there to click on a button, and you'll see exactly what they've captured while you were at that site, specifically for that site.
Right, and then you can take action.
And you'll be able to selectively change it or do whatever you need to
Change
do.
it, or you can just say, I hate this site, they're too invasive in my
Right.
privacy, and I'm never going back there again, and you never go back.
Yeah, so that'll be a nice enhancement that you can see what if you suspect somebody's been doing something, you can just go back to every site you've ever gone to and then click on that button and see exactly what they're tracking right now, and choose to disable each one individually if you want to.
Yeah, now that you mentioned, I think I did read that somewhere, Greg, but thanks for reminding me.
Yeah, that Renee Ritchie talked about that feature, and I thought, oh, it's about time, because Apple's getting serious about that.
Greg?
I want to give you some information that I got. I am forced to use a PC for my embroidery machine. So for protection, I got PC-Matic. And I was also allowed, or, it's supposed to work on a Mac too. So I tried installing it on my big Mac, and it was a total disaster. Because I couldn't even boot in. It was so disruptive. So I ended up taking it off totally, trying, destroy every bit of it.
Hey, wait a minute. I'm sorry, I missed something there, Janine. Okay, so you got an embroidery machine.
Yeah, but so as a part of that, to protect the PC, I got PC-Matic.
Okay, so you got a hardware PC and connected it to the machine.
Yeah, I had to do that.
And you had to get.
But by the same token, by paying for the PC-Matic, I was also entitled to use it on 5 other machines, which means if I want, I can do all my other Macs there. But when I put it on this particular machine that I'm on right now, it just caused havoc.
Is this a Mac you're talking about now?
Now, yes, because I'm saying that I put it on, since I was entitled to use it on 5 other machines, 5 total, then
they had a Mac version and a PC version.
Bruce. Yes. So when I put the Mac version on a Mac, then it totally destroyed my ability to even to boot in.
Probably written by some guy who's got a lot of Microsoft stock.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so I ended up I will only be using it on the PC simply to protect it from all the viruses that can come in and destroy them.
Were you able to at least get it back to where you could boot it again, or what did you do?
Yeah, I had to boot externally and then go in and get every speck of it that I could find out in order. And as soon as I did that, then yes, I was able to, my machine is normal now. But I wanted to ask one thing, as long as we're on upgrades and things like that. Since Apple upgraded my machine last night to 10.15.6, I think. I don't know if anybody has explored that or to know what the differences are. What did the upgrade do? So that's a question I wanted to ask.
Yeah, you're right. The latest version is for Catalina is 10.15.6.
Yeah.
You know, you can. I know you can find that on Google as well.
Okay. Just thought I'd ask.
Got a question for you that's been giving me some problems, and it's been keeping me stuck at what version do I have here? I forgot. At Mojave, I haven't been able to go beyond Mojave because of it.
Hang on just a second, Bruce, or Bart. Yeah, you can do a Google search on what does Mac OS 10.15.6 do, and there's a page that takes you right to where you can download a PDF that explains everything that I thought that was there. And so it says Mac OS Catalina 10.16 introduces local news in your today feed. Who cares? Update also includes bug fixes and other improvements. Adds a new option to optimize video streaming on HDR-compatible Mac notebooks for improved battery life. Fixes an issue where the computer name may change after installing a software update. That's interesting. resolves an issue where certain USB mouse and trackpads may lose connection. Some features may not be available for all regions or on all Apple devices. For more detailed information, please click on such and such. Well, anyway, you can type that into your Google search, what does 10.15.6 Mac OS do? And there's an option to download a hard copy to tell you exactly what that change had. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Who, me? Greg, I have a problem where I can't upgrade because my Office version is a 32-bit Office.
Yeah, you're screwed.
People
You have to get a subscription 64-bit version.
Yeah. People have suggested, I forgot what the name of it was, but it's a freeware software that seems to emulate the Office program.
OpenOffice.org.
OpenOffice. I went to OpenOffice and I find out that they only have 32-bit versions of the software, and I didn't see anything on their site suggesting that they were working on 64-bit versions. Is there another program, something like OpenOffice, where I wouldn't be roped into this thing where I have to pay over $100 a year?
Well, let me tell you, I'm running Catalina, and OpenOffice works fine.
There's also LibreOffice. That's
And
there's
also Star. There's also Star.
I'm using
Office.
Libre.
Yeah, well,
I'm using
LibreOffice is
LibreOffice.
an offshoot of OpenOffice.
Well, how do you spell it? Libre?
Yeah.
Correct. That's what I use is LibreOffice. It has.
But let me tell you, Bart, I've got OpenOffice on this Mac, and it's working fine with Catalina.
Okay, and what was the other?
Another name would be Neo Office.
NeoOffice, and there's also Star Office.
And Star. Okay, I'll.
Are any of them 64-bit?
I don't know about Neo. I haven't checked it lately.
I have to go look. Let me see what it is here. I know you can look at about. Let's see.
Well, if it's working on Catalina, it's.
If it's working on Catalina, it's got to be
64-bit.
compatible. So
Yeah, it's got to be 64-bit.
probably.
Because on their website, they identify it as 32-bit. That's so I was reluctant to try it for fear of screwing something up.
Well, in theory, it just won't work. That's all there is to it. If they can't make it somehow compatible or a bit plug to get in there to fix it or whatever it is, it's just not going to load.
Right.
Not going to run.
It wouldn't hurt anything to
No,
try.
it just won't work.
Yeah, if you find it and download it and go to and try to install it and run it, when you go to run it, if it won't run on that operating system, you'll get a message right off saying that it won't, and it won't hurt anything other than you've got some software on there that you don't really need now. But
I don't want to
LibreOffice is 64-bit.
operating system to a newer operating system, then download it and find out that none of these things operate on the 64-bit and really be forced to pay Microsoft a dime.
well, you really have only two choices. You can trust what the website says about their own software, whether it's 32 or 64-bit or
Yeah, it could be
whatever.
they just haven't updated it yet.
Or you can download it without installing it. If you can get to the binary, the application, without running the installer, you can select that and do get info, and that will tell you right away in the get info window whether it's 32-bit or what.
I forgot about that, Bruce. I forgot all about that.
But
That's
that not all install. It depends on how the installer works.
Okay.
Anyway, LibreOffice is 64-bit, so you wouldn't have a problem with that.
Okay, Frank says it's 64, Bart.
I just went to the website. It says it's 64-bit. So
Yeah, so I don't know
for
where you
Windows
got,
and Mac OS.
Something the last 2 weeks, because 2 weeks ago when I checked it, it said 32 bits. So if that's the case, I'll just go ahead and load up OpenOffice and then, or maybe, yeah, I'll load up OpenOffice first and then I'll go ahead and upgrade my operating system.
it's possible. It's
I hope
possible
you
they
didn't
just updated it within the last 2 weeks for 64 bits. Who knows? But
What I'm saying is LibreOffice is 64-bit. I didn't look at OpenOffice.
right,
Oh.
but Bart was saying it was only 32, correct, Bart?
Well, that's on OpenOffice. It's says,
My mistake. Okay. So
But
just go ahead and get LibreOffice and forget OpenOffice.
Greg says that OpenOffice is in fact 64. So I could, since that's the most popular one, I could download the thing, look in the about file on it, presuming that the about file is available without installing the program, and then make a decision at that point. Is that what
The other thing is, it is not only the most popular one, OpenOffice, but I would assume that if there's any difference or compatibility or lack of compatibility between Microsoft Office and these other two packages, I would assume that OpenOffice is probably going to be better, if anything, than LibreOffice. I don't know that for a fact, but I would trust it more, to be compatible based on what little I do know about that.
What I wanted to mention about that is a couple years ago, I switched to LibreOffice from OpenOffice because I had some problems with printing on OpenOffice. And I didn't have those problems with LibreOffice. The other thing I was reading about is LibreOffice does more updates on their particular application than OpenOffice does. That was one of the main reasons why I changed over to it, but they're almost identical in a lot of ways. So, but anyway, here I just Googled OpenOffice 64-bit for Mac, and Apache OpenOffice is 64-bit. That's what I found.
4.13 is the latest version of Apache, I guess, for that.
Right. Well, so what I'm saying is OpenOffice, Apache OpenOffice is 64-bit. So I don't know what the difference of Apache OpenOffice is versus just OpenOffice, unless they picked it up and started, taking care of it.
Ah, okay, because when I searched and I went to the website, it was just OpenOffice is what I searched on, and I went to the OpenOffice website. So I wasn't aware that there were two different websites there with OpenOffice in their title.
Right. Well, all I Googled was OpenOffice 64-bit Mac, and that's what it brought up was Apache OpenOffice. I just didn't see any just OpenOffice.
Okay, if you go to openoffice.org, the first thing it says Apache OpenOffice 4.1.7 released. So, and the version I have is 4.1.3, and it's working with 4.1.3. So they obviously come out with a later one. Maybe it's just not updated through all the different web pages that are out there.
Yeah, it's possible. But anyway.
One other thing, the other day I had a problem and talked to Apple, and they thought maybe I had a malware problem, and they also on the support line recommended Malwarebytes.
Oh, that's good to know.
Information.
Okay, so there's a plus. There's a plus there to keep in mind. Malwarebytes.
I just went to this site, and the Apache OpenOffice uses the same logo as.
Well, that doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't.
No, they're all open source software. That's what Apache's open source software.
Oh, okay. So anyhow, I think I've found my solution to the thing. I'll go ahead and make the change, and then download the Apache Open Office and go with it. Thank you.
Well, you have two iMacs. Couldn't you leave one iMac on the older operating system and one iMac on the newer operating system?
The older iMac is a 2010 version, and I forgot what it's uprated as far as it can be upgraded, but it's just so far away from.
I realize that, but couldn't you just run your Microsoft products on that particular Macintosh?
I could, but there's two problems with it. It would be a pain in the ass because I've got the two computers set up to
Side
work.
by side.
Secondly, my wife needs to be able to do whatchamacallit, Word and Excel because of her work. So she has a separate, she has the iMac in the other room. So even though that your solution would work for me, it wouldn't work for her. So I'd rather have the solution that works for both of us.
Okay, Lynn, you had a question? I know it's hard to get in sometimes.
Yes, I'm running an older machine, but it's working fine. iMac from late 2009, and I have 10.13.6 High Sierra.
Okay.
I don't have business needs, so for me it's just fun. But I was wondering if you can recommend a scan program that I could install on this so that I could scan products or papers into my computer to send.
Now, do you have a scanner right now?
I have a scanner machine, copier scanner, yeah.
Okay, and that doesn't have some kind of software to be able to do that for your
Well,
Mac?
I don't know. I pushed the scanner part on the machine and I tried to scan something, but then it just wouldn't work. So somebody told me I don't have it on my computer.
Well, that's what it sounds like.
You need to load the drivers.
Right, you need to look, right. If you go into system preferences, go into printers and faxes, you should be able to find your printer, and there should be an option for you to install the scanner driver into that, and then it'll work from that point on. There should be an option to do that.
I
Okay.
have a solution.
Question, what brand of scanner is it?
It's a Brother.
Oh, okay.
And
I
then-
Yeah,
have a
Brother, HP, or Epson, any of those three, that should be a safe bet.
yeah, my scanner is or a copier is much newer than the computer, but
Alert from Google Chrome.
how long this computer is lasting.
I
So,
have a solution.
yes.
And
Go ahead, Lloyd.
it comes with the operating system. It's an application called Image Capture. I use that for all of my scanning. It works real easy. When you open it up, it recognizes your printer. You click on it, and then you can set the kind of scanning you want.
Okay.
Check it out, Image Capture,
Okay.
and open it up.
Okay. Thank you.
On your,
Is that in the, where
Lynn,
do you get it? Into the App Store?
It's included as part of the
it's-
operating system.
It's probably in the utilities folder.
Okay.
No, it's in the applications
Is it in
folder.
that? Okay, it is, all right.
Lynn, on your scanner, is it one of the Epson, I don't mean Epson, Brother multifunction scanners? Okay,
It's a copier and a, and a scanner and a fax.
in the whole
And
thing.
printer.
That's like what I have. I have a Brother also.
Yeah.
I would start, before you bother with the other stuff, of installing the drivers, the Brother drivers for your system. I've been using it for years, and it works
I
beautifully.
probably never did that when I got it.
Beautifully.
Thank you.
Yeah,
The
you're
other-
better off installing the drivers from the manufacturer, because a lot of times you just get generic stuff if you use Apple to install. They just install a general one for it. So it's better to install the manufacturer's drivers.
The other thing, Lynn, is
Yes.
failing all of the above that have been mentioned already. There is a third-party program that's highly thought of called ViewScan.
Yeah, that works quite well.
And it's very highly thought of. It's not free, but it's not expensive. I think it's under $50 one time or something. And that will work with almost any scanner make and model on the market. They constantly update it as new scanners and multifunction printers come out. So if you need the power or a little more, flexibility, it has its own, essentially its own drivers too. So if you have problems or just can't get things to work the way you want, look into ViewScan. I don't know the website, but if you Google on VUESCAN, I'm sure you'll find it.
VUE.
Oh,
Bruce,
VU,
Bruce,
like
I
view.
thought you said you. Okay.
Bruce,
VUESCAN.
Bruce, can I have access to screen share?
Yeah, go ahead, just click on it.
Well, yeah, but it says that you've disabled it for attendees. So,
Really? I don't remember doing that. Hang on a second.
It's basically a default to disable it.
Who's that asked? Was that you, Lloyd, or Phil?
yeah,
Or who?
yeah, I want to show you the page in image capture. I think it's one of the options you have along the bottom part of the screen.
Yeah, share scan. I see
I'll be
it.
damned. Yeah, where's
Right in
that?
the middle.
Huh, that's new since the last time I used this. Okay, see if it works now. There you go.
Okay, so
That security feature is brand new since the last meeting.
okay. So this is the scan feature in image capture. I scanned this card. It recognizes my printer when I started off. You can change it from color to black and white or text. You can change the DPI. You can indicate where you want to scan it to. You name it. You can name it like card. You can make it a PDF or you can make it a JPEG. And you can combine it into a single document if you've got several pages to combine. You can also use custom size by clicking here, and then you just drag your wait a minute.
Yeah, the bounding box is called.
Yeah, you can
Drag
drag that around there, custom size it that. And then when you're through, you just click scan, and it scans it to the location you want. For general scanning, this works great.
This
Okay,
is actually,
Lynn, just to let you know real quick, if you go to Google, you can type, I typed in scanning to Mac with Brother Printer. And an entire page showed up with all kinds of options. How do I scan a document from my Brother Printer on my computer? Do Brother Printers work with Mac? How do I get my Mac to recognize my wireless Brother Printer? There's a whole selection of stuff in there to walk you through.
Lynn, one thing I would recommend, just as a bit of general advice, start with the easy and cheap and uncomplicated solutions first.
Yeah, try the brother feature first.
And when you get to something that meets your needs and seems to work well, stop. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But if you have to, go to the paid options like ViewScan, where you have to spend, I don't know, something under $50, or the more complicated things, So, and do what Greg said too. Do the Google search and read up a little bit before you do any of this, and see if you get, if it helps you. Good, but if it's more confusing, if you're more confused after reading some of the Google search result pages, then you either have to keep Googling and find better pages, or come back here and with your questions, and we'll try to unwind and untangle it for you.
It just so happens the second entry down was a support page from Brother. So that means you could also go to Brother's website, and they would probably have
the other thing
put in your
is,
model, it would tell you exactly how to do it.
The other general advice for anybody is, it's nice before you install something to have a plan to uninstall it if you change your mind. companies want you to use their stuff, so they tend to make it easy to install it. They don't always make it that easy to uninstall it. So if I were you, I'd figure out how to uninstall it. Some programs come with a separate uninstaller, others do not. And the procedure for uninstalling varies. So just keep that in mind too.
How did you get image capture in utilities? Because I'm looking at utilities.
No, apparently it's in applications.
It's not there.
It's not in utilities, it's in applications.
Lynn,
Oh,
Lynn,
Yeah.
that software that Lloyd showed you, it looks in every respects, it acts exactly like the free software from Brother for your MFC. And so I wouldn't even think about stuff like that until you install the software.
Try the Brother.
I wouldn't
Brother,
for it, because everything that Lloyd software did is exactly what the Brother software does, and there does not seem to, what he showed on the screen, to be anything on there that Brother does not do. So to pay for that and not get any extra utility, apparently get any extra utility, is rather silly.
So what I showed is part of the
Free operating
system. It already comes on your Mac.
Yeah.
Well, it just so happens there's a company in Florida, I forget the name of it offhand, that for years wrote printer drivers and stuff like that, and Apple bought them about 12, 13 years ago. And they're the same people who make image capture and everything else. That's a wholly owned Apple company. So, but Apple gives that information away to the world for free, all that driver stuff. So usually what happens is Brother and Epson and whoever else out there takes that, if they don't have something already that's unique for them, they take that software just like Bruce said, and they just tweak it and put their pages in there and their information and stuff like that. They try to make an installer to make it a little easier. So you're always better off if you can go with what your third-party device, if they have a way of doing it, you're always better off to at least start there, and because you always have these other options to fall back on.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I have lots to do now.
Thanks, guys, for the help.
The only problem I see with image capture is like with HP Easy Scan, you could actually scan additional documents within the same document.
Right, multi-page.
With HP, right. With the Apple Scan,
it's individual,
and you can only do individual ones.
Right.
So I mean,
it's a basic one.
Fantastic feature, because if you're not using the auto scan mode, your auto feeder, you can scan multiples with the auto scan on the standard ones, but you can't do it on the flatbed.
Well, yeah, actually, yeah. If you have the document feeder on your scanner, but you only had software that made individual pages, they all make 1, 2, 3, 4. They just make individual scans is what they do.
Right. Well, no, the auto.
As an example, you had a 20-page document rather than having 20 individual PDFs that could get lost somewhere along the line. The advantage of using the built-in one, where you can dump it all into one document and get a 20-page PDF, is a much better way to go.
Correct.
Yeah, and although
I'd mention that.
And although it's possible to combine 20 one-page PDFs into one 20-page PDF, it's a pain in the butt to have to do that. I think you could even do that in the preview app, but if you can't, there's Adobe software.
Oh, you can do it in preview.
But why do it at all if you can?
You can just get that way to begin with, yeah.
One last parting bit of advice for Lynn or anybody that's scanning. There's a good book, an excellent book on, let me get back to my browser here, on scanning. And it tells you, now this is for after you have your scanner basically up and running. You've gone through and put in the drivers or some program and the scanner's working and you could get a scan from it and everything's working, but you want to get better results. You're having problems and you you need to know more about it. And it's called A Few Scanning Tips by Wayne Fulton. Let me just quickly share my screen. I think that's probably the fastest way to do this, if Greg doesn't mind here.
Go right ahead.
Let's see here. Okay, there we go. Can you all see that? It's red and
Yep.
sort of off-white or yellowish. That's the website, scantips.com. And what's on the webpage is basically free, but he has a book which is not free, but it's not very expensive either. I have an older copy of it, and he makes it available in print form. You can buy it from him on his website, and they'll ship it to you. He's somewhere in Texas, I don't remember where, but anyway, the main thing is he seems to know an awful lot about scanning and how scanners work, and there's more info here than most people ever will need on how to scan, but you can read through and find answers to your scanning questions on the website or in the book. So I just wanted to mention that. So.
I have
Hey, thanks.
another suggestion to share. We talked about deleting apps. There's an application called App Delete, and what it does is when you open it up, it creates a little window. You take the application out of your applications folder and drop it in this little window, and it goes and finds all the little bits and pieces of that application that's in your computer, and you click delete, and it deletes everything.
Wow.
This is the web page, Reggie Ashworth's.
Reggie Ashworth.
Yeah, he's got reggieashworth.com app delete, and you can try it, and I find I keep trying it, and they never ask for money, but I mean, you can buy it. So I've found that this works really great. So,
That's cool. The good thing about most of those is some applications have a tendency to rat hole bits and pieces all over the system.
Right. I'd be a little hesitant because there could be problems with that. If he's done a good job, it shouldn't be problematic, but I don't know. But you're always better off, if you can, to get an uninstaller from the same place where you got the installer. And run
I've used it for a long time, and I've never had
So far, no problem.
Maybe he's done a very good job of making sure he gets the pieces he needs to get without accidentally deleting the pieces you don't want deleted too. So
go ahead. Along with what Bruce was saying is let's say as an example, I'll use Microsoft Word as an example. If you wanted to Microsoft Word, at least it used to come with not only an installer but an uninstaller as well. If you've to save space or whatever, or you didn't think about it, you've trashed the uninstaller. Usually they don't take up much space. You can always download the software again. Don't buy it. Download it because almost everybody gives you a free trial. And when you open it up the first time, before you actually install it, there'll usually be an installer right then and there. And then you can use their installer after you've re-downloaded the software.
That's right. Sometimes the uninstall is an option in the installer program. Other times it's a whole separate app you have to run called uninstall Windows or uninstall Scanner or some way, whatever the name of the program is you're trying to uninstall. And then other times, very simple software just is an app that goes in your applications folder and may not create any other files except maybe a preferences file or something. To get rid of that, if you know that's the case, all you have to do is drag it out of your applications folder to the trash. And if you really want to be thorough, you could delete the preferences file, but there's no real need to do that normally, because if the app's gone, it'll just sit there and never get used for anything. But it's hard for the average person to know if an app is that kind of app or not. One thing you can do, and people have done successfully, is use Google or your favorite search engine and put in the word uninstall space and the name of the app you're trying to uninstall and see what pops up, and look at the most and pay attention to where the information is coming from. Try to pick reliable sources. If it's coming from Macworld or what's the other one, MacLife or someplace like that, or Apple, then you know it's probably trustworthy. If it's coming from Joe's website, unless you know Joe is a smart Mac guy, I don't know, it's hard to know.
Yeah, there used to be a place called it was an actual retail store. It was called Academy Books and Software. But when you went there, they also sold like jewelry. It was the weirdest retail store I ever seen. I think what it was is probably the wife started the jewelry store, I'm assuming, and maybe the bookstore or wherever, and the husband came along. But it was just such a weird combination that you'd walk in and you'd find they had good discount software, but they also sold jewelry. It was in Anaheim. It was in downtown Anaheim.
Oh, really?
I'll tell you something crazier than that. Back in the day, in the days when I was involved in Boy Scouts, my predecessor as Scoutmaster, he ran a business called Anaheim Drapery and Software. And basically what he had done, he had a drapery business. And when the first computers came along, he decided that, gee, I can make money selling software. So he had shelves of software in there. And so he basically had two separate businesses combined into one. It was really weird.
Hey, whatever it takes to make a buck nowadays.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Where was that bookstore, Greg? I'm surprised living in Anaheim for so many years that I hadn't heard of it or seen it somewhere. Was it downtown or somewhere else?
It was on, as I recall, it was on Brookhurst, and it was like between like Broadway and Lincoln, somewhere.
No, it doesn't matter. Never mind.
But it was weird. I drove by it one day by mistake, and I said, I couldn't believe what I saw in the window.
Yeah, Joe's business was in that same area too, in this little.
Maybe he's the one I'm thinking of. Maybe he's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, what ended his business, there was a dry cleaning store next to him, and the other side of the dry cleaning store was a jewelry shop, and the dry cleaning store caught on fire and took out both businesses.
Oh, geez. That's tough.
It looks like it's curtains for that business.
Oh. We're going all morning without really bad jokes, so.
Sorry, I had to get that in there somehow. Greg, why don't we try to let some other people talk, ask questions.
Anybody else have any issues?
People probably been tired of my voice droning on.
I have a question with my iWatch. I had several iPads that I gave one to my granddaughter, and I had to, we did whatever you have to do, and somehow or another, my iWatch wanted me to give it a new password. And so I did whatever I needed to do. My priority was to take care of the iPad. But now I keep getting messages on my iWatch that says, put in the new password. Now I know what the new password is, but I don't know how to type in the new, how do I type it into my iWatch?
Well, Glenda, don't you mean you have an iPhone also, right?
Yes, I have an iPhone.
So you associate the Apple Watch.
And somehow or another, they don't talk to each. Now, it used to be when my phone would ring and it was on the table, I could answer with my watch.
Right. They're not associated right now. So
they're not associated.
You need to go to, golly, I'm trying to remember how to do that. I know you can look it up on Google, but you need to you want to unpair your Apple Watch with whatever device it's got.
Okay.
So it may need your old password or your new password. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I know both.
And then you want to go back and you want to pair when you pair your Apple Watch with your iPhone, what it does, it creates a funky looking pattern. You literally hold the iPhone over it, and the camera captures it and syncs the two of them together. Hi, Tom.
Now I forgot how to pair. How do I pair it?
I think you start.
I hate to be go ahead.
I think you start by going to the watch app on your phone, not on the watch itself.
Yeah, but it doesn't. Yeah, you're right. Right.
Somewhere on your iPhone, you should have an app named Watch, WATCH, and launch that.
Yeah, I got it.
Launch that app, and somewhere in there, you should be able to unpair whatever it's paired to, if it is paired to something, and then pair it or repair it with the watch you want it to be paired with. Once
when you first get it, on your phone,
once you've done that, a lot of your problems will probably go away.
Yeah, on your phone, when you open up the Apple the Watch app, across the top it'll say so and so's Apple Watch or whatever with the right arrow.
Right.
There's an option in there to pair new watch or to unpair or whatever it is.
Okay.
But do you have to have Bluetooth on?
Pair new watch.
Yeah, you do have to have Bluetooth turned on. Yes.
I think you have to turn it on the phone if it's not already.
Yeah, up there where you see where it says up there where it shows your watch name and then it shows.
Now I'm on a view. I have a camera here that says align with a viewfinder.
Okay, now did you go to unpair?
No, I don't know what I did.
All right. When you first get into the pair new, when you first get into you see your watch name across the top.
Yeah.
And your right command arrow, there's a large panel that shows the watch information, what model it is, and all that kind of baloney. It says pair new watch. But if you click on the little I in that top one, that gets you to the next stage, which shows the name, find my Apple Watch, unpair Apple Watch.
Unpair. Oh, I got it.
Okay. So what you want to do is you want to unpair the Apple Watch.
Okay.
And once you've done that, back up a level and pair new watch.
Okay. Unpair.
And that way it'll break any associativity it might have to any other device you've got.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
By the way, I can't think of any good reason for people not turning on Find My Watch, Find My iPhone, Find My iPad, and even Find My Mac. I had all those turned on except Find My Mac, because I figured, well, it's an iMac. We're in a very, very low crime area. What am I worried about? It's not going to walk away. And then I got to thinking, well, what will it hurt to have it on? And I guess it's theoretically possible somebody could steal it someday. So I turned it on for the iMac too, and I don't see any real downside to doing that. Make sure they're all using the same Apple ID though first.
Right.
Where do you do that? Where do you find the choice?
Depends on which device you're turning it off or on from.
Well, it sounds like you have it all in one area.
One way to do it that will work from any device that has a web browser. I think the watch is the only thing that does not have a browser, at least.
Okay, on the Mac.
Go to a web browser.
On the for the Mac, to turn it on the Mac, you go to System Preferences, and you go into Internet Accounts, at least on the current operating system. But you can type up there in the search bar in System Preferences, Find My Mac, and it'll take you right there.
Okay.
Right. But if you go if you go to a web browser, you could even do this from a Windows PC or somebody else's Mac or PC. Go to a web browser, go to iCloud.com, put in your Apple ID, the one that you're going to use or have been using, and the password that goes with it. And once you get in there, I think it's under settings or someplace in there, or account settings or something, you'll find a place where it will list every individual Apple device that you've set up to use the Find My feature with. So if you have Find My iPhone turned on in your phone and you log in with this web browser, you'll see your iPhone listed there, and you can turn it off for that one device or add another device, and you can add the iMac there if it's not already on. or whatever computer or device you want. There should be a plus sign that says add, and you can add device. But you may have to have the device nearby because it will put up a pairing code, just like when you pair Bluetooth devices, it'll put a code on the device that you have to go back and enter into the browser. So it knows that you're under control of both devices. You're in control of both devices. Okay, does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Yeah,
That's
for
one
whatever
way to
reason,
do it.
for whatever reason, when you go to iCloud.com and you log in, it shows Find My iPhone. It doesn't show you the other ones. You click on Find My iPhone, and then there's an option at the top that says All Devices. And when you click on the All Devices, everything that's registered will show up in that list.
Right. Or you can do what Greg said in the Mac, it's under in the system, somewhere in the system preferences, in the iPhone and iPad, it's somewhere in the settings, you know.
Yeah, I found it. I did find it under preferences. Yeah.
There doesn't seem to be a limit to how many devices you want, because I have Marsh's items listed as well.
Those things are equivalent. It doesn't matter whether you turn on or off a device from your Mac or your iPhone or from the web interface. It all goes to the same place under your Apple ID in Apple's servers. Okay, any other questions? Don't all talk at once. Everybody's machines and devices are all working
Hey,
properly.
Greg, you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
I have a question. First of all, how do you like your 16-inch MacBook Pro?
It's fantastic, Ralph. I love it.
Okay, I was gonna replace my old 15-inch MacBook Pro, which is the latest one that I'm using. But I have an older computer, 17-inch, early 04, I think.
Back when they still called them PowerBooks.
Whatever.
Yeah,
whatever
I
it
had
is,
one of those too.
Whatever it is, I need to keep the software on that one working, and I'm getting signs that I may get a hardware failure pretty soon. So what I'd like to do is keep the same software, because iWork 09, they butchered it up when they upgraded it, to later version, and it no longer allows you to do facing pages, on a book. Everything is like left-hand margin, so I need to keep that software working. So what I'd like to know is how do I find the latest version of MacBook Pro that will run a particular software, and I'm looking for Mavericks, for example. See, the latest version of MacBook Pro that will run Mavericks. Now I can find a list of computers with the software that comes with them. That's easy, but how do you find which of those computers will run Mavericks and be the latest one that will do that? See, and then
I'm looking in Mac Tracker. I would think there's a way of doing it inside of Mac Tracker. Everybody should have this program. It's free.
Mac Tracker does tell you the latest system, I think, at the end of all the different things that
in Mac Tracker, there's a whole software section, which I don't know about you, but I tend to forget about. If you go in the software, you can look up individual operating system releases, and I think in there, it will tell you which hardware versions it will and will not run on, or at least which ones it will run on, and you can see from there. The other way to do it is to pick a specific hardware version and make a model number of an Apple MacBook Pro or iMac or whatever, a specific year, and find that in Mac Tracker, and it will tell you what the latest operating system is that computer will run. And sometimes it will say latest version of Mac OS, which means it'll run the current version.
Currently. Yeah.
Other times it'll end with a certain release like Mavericks or something, and you can't go on beyond that. But if you also have a certain version of application software you want to run, you need to know what versions of the operating system that software will and will not run on too. So,
well, I've never seen any listing that shows the absolute latest OS that will run on a specific piece of Mac hardware.
oh, well, Mac Tracker is your answer.
Mac Tracker
Or
will tell you, yeah.
there's the website that I keep forgetting. Who knows the website that's similar to Mac Tracker? Forget.
Yeah.
You know the one, Greg? But
Yeah, I know it too, and I can't remember. Steve used to use, that's what Steve used all the time, kept on his iPhone.
anyway, you can do it either way. I find Mac Tracker a little easier to use. The website, you don't have to install any additional software, whereas with Mac Tracker you do, and you have to keep the program updated because it updates the database every time Apple makes changes or comes out with new hardware or new operating systems or obsolete certain hardware. They update all that info in the Mac Tracker app in its database. And when
Yeah,
you
and just to remind everybody, it's free.
it is
Mac Tracker has information.
I'm
on
not sure. Isn't that, Greg, now available through the App Store, the Mac App Store?
I think so.
Yes, it is. Yeah,
I think so. And so if you get it through the App Store, you have the advantage that that Apple would automatically let you know when it needs to
Right.
be
It
updated.
used to be only by direct download
Right.
from the Mac Tracker.
But it's
web.
not only Macintosh, it has iPhones, iPads, Newtons. It has everything Apple's ever made.
Everything Apple makes or ever used to make,
That's right.
including airport base stations.
That's right. Everything Apple's ever made, that information's in there.
Yeah, airport base stations, time capsules, the Newton touchpad, all that stuff, all the way back to the very, very first Mac in 1984 and all the way up to the present. Every time Apple sneezes, they update that thing with the new models and stuff.
Yeah, they've even added things like history to give you some history on what the particular product you're looking at. They've got a timeline. This didn't used to be in here. Now they've got a timeline. So you can click on the timeline for 2020, and that shows they have an iPad Pro 11-inch, second generation with Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi and cellular, iPad Pro 12.9-inch, fourth generation with Wi-Fi and cellular. I mean, everything that's brought out in that calendar year under Apple's banner is listed in there. So everything they've ever made is in this document, and it's free to keep a copy of. So it's really handy if you want to look and see what can and can't work with something.
Real quick on that, on Mac Tracker, it does show under software Maximum OS. So in other words, I looked up his PowerBook from 2004, and it says the Maximum OS, and we all know since it's PowerPC, it'll only run 10.5.8. So the Max OS.
Right. That's
okay.
right.
I'll take a look, and I like to say hello to Phil Jean-Rouge. I haven't seen you in a long time.
Hi. Yeah. Hey. Hey, I've got something here that's really handy. It's called Roaring Apps. And you get on that, and it gives you a big cross matrix of your app versus your Mac OS version. And it either has a checkbox to say it's going to work, or an X that says it's not going to work, or a question mark saying, we don't know, we haven't tried it. So
how do you spell that?
Yeah, I've never heard of that one.
Roaring, like Roaring 20s, ROARING, Roaring Apps, all one word.
Very cool. Roaring Apps.
Very cool. So check it out. When you're going to upgrade, you may find out that some of your favorite apps won't work on the newest version of Mojave or wherever you're going.
Very cool, Phil. That's good. I've never heard of that one before.
Oh, yeah. It's a good
Yeah,
one.
yeah, that's good. And you may be able to tell that way, but if they only keep the latest version of the apps there, I don't know if you'll be able to go back to 2009 to the iWork apps that far back, but you might. I don't know. Now, I just remembered or found the name of the website that does mostly the same thing as the Mac Track, does mostly the same thing as the Mac Tracker app. It's called everymac.com.
That's it.
Let me quickly share my screen so you all see what it looks like. And there, do you all see everymac.com?
Yep.
Yeah.
on my
Yeah,
screen.
I think I've seen that before, yeah.
Yeah, and that does pretty much the same thing as the Mac Tracker does, except it's a website. Tracker is a Mac app. There's also a Mac or an iPad and iPhone app for version of Mac Tracker, which basically does the same thing. Now, every Mac.com is organized differently from the others, so you may have to look around a bit, but they have all the same specs and everything on there pretty
Yeah, I think
much.
the reason that Steve used it most of the time was because he says if they make a change tomorrow, it shows up in that tomorrow.
Right. You don't have
Where the other one
nothing.
might be a month or two behind.
That's right. There's nothing for you to worry about updating. It's always kept pretty current by the people who do it. I don't know how they do it, but they do. So I hope, Ralph, I hope that answers your.
Very cool.
I'll get it, but hopefully it will tell me what's the latest piece of hardware that will run Mavericks.
Okay, what you're going to find is anything that was in 2006 will only run up to, I think, 10.7.5. You have to go to a 2007 model. Anyway, late 2006 to 2007 to run anything past that. I was just looking it up on Mac Tracker on a few of the machines, and that's anything 2006 that expires in 2006 won't run past 10.7.5. So.
Well, I'll give you an example. I'm looking at my 16-inch right now. The earliest operating system, this particular MacBook, this is a 2019, I guess, technically, is 10.15.1. That's the earliest operating system. There's probably a way to hack that, but that's the earliest operating system, according to Apple, that you can run on this.
Yeah, there is a way to hack it, although it's generally not advisable for most people to do that. But yeah, all you have to do is figure out what the OS installer looks for to determine whether or not a Mac can be, or a given version of OS 10 can be installed on a given Mac.
So here's a feature.
And I think it's possible to fake it out or overwrite it. And I'll bet Frank Mossberger knows a lot more about that than I do. But
run it on a virtual machine.
Yeah, well, that's true. You can always do that. Here's a way you can do it, Ralph. You can go to, like I'm on the Mac Tracker page on this Mac because it's looking at my MacBook Pro 16, and it's showing me. It gives you a left arrow and a right arrow up there in the header bar, in the header bar, and I can click to the left, and it starts going backwards from right now, the various models, and it'll go starting with that model. It'll start going backwards. So the next one down is a MacBook Pro 13-inch 2019, then a MacBook Pro 15-inch 2019. Now it shows that particular model will do 10.14.5.
Well, I need to do 10.9.5.
Okay, so I'll just keep scrolling through this until I get to something that says 10.9.5. There we are. The most recent model that could probably handle 10 would be the MacBook Pro Retina 15-inch from 2014.
2014?
Yep. In order that it came with 10.9.4.
Retina what?
It's called the MacBook Pro Retina 15-inch and it was released in mid 2014.
Okay.
Now, it says, as I'm looking through the software column on there, it says it came with 10.9.4, but it can run the latest release, so it can run Catalina. AirDrop is supported, handoff is supported, Power Nap is supported with Mac. You can unlock with an Apple Watch when you move up to Sierra. It came bundled with iPhoto, iMovie, GarageBand, Pages, Numbers, and Keynote. Of course, those are the versions.
Yeah, I probably won't do any of that. What I'll do is just erase it and use my backup, restore from my backup.
Or rename the existing ones something else, so that you can, when you restore from your backup, you've got both versions on there.
I could do that.
So if you had, you had Pages 09, you could name this one Pages 10 or something like that. But this Mac Tracker, guys, I'm telling you, I keep it on my iPhone, my iPad, and the MacBook Pro because I used to go out in the field and help people out. But it takes up very little space. It's a wealth of information. Well
Good,
worth having because you can find anything. I mean, I can go through this thing and look at memory and graphics, what that particular machine, it can handle 16 gigs of RAM. That was the maximum it could take. It tells you which connection ports it has available on it, its history, and if there was any special notes or whatever. That's just built into the thing.
Okay.
There you go.
Gotcha.
You got a lot of stuff to check out there, Ralph.
I'll go take a
Yeah,
look
because
at it.
you can't trust the people at the Apple Store. Let's put it this way: they want to sell new stuff.
That's right, yeah.
That's
Well, I'm
true.
going to buy the new one too, but
Yeah.
I have,
You like to get the latest hardware to work with the versions that you've got. That makes sense.
I got two computers right now. One's running High Sierra, I think, and I haven't upgraded past that. I don't think it'll run the latest, to tell you the truth. But I expect
Again, put Mac Tracker on it, and it'll tell you.
I'm going to buy that 16-incher. I might wait till the next generation, though.
Yeah, because one of the things I was talking about earlier today is you can go to YouTube and you can type in Rene Ritchie, Richie, and he's been independent from iMore for about 6-8 months, something like that. He does it all on his own, and he puts out 1 or 2 videos a week. They're usually about 10 to 12 minutes long, something like that. And like I said, he always does a commercial for who's ever sponsoring him. Usually it's brilliant software, but the commercial will be right at the very end. So you get to the point he starts talking about the commercial, you can bail out. But the good thing is he just talked about the new machines that they're talking about bringing out with the Apple silicon chips in it rather than the Intel silicon chips. And there's going to be a 16-inch. Now, whether they show it in September or show it in December, I don't know. But if I were you, I'd wait and at least until they do the show in September, for the iPhone, because they'll probably talk about the silicon chips then, and you might get an idea. Because I bought mine here a month ago, or 2 months ago, or whatever it is. I'm okay with what I've got, but it might be kind of nice to have the latest, greatest of anything, especially if it's only a month away.
Did you get a trade-in?
I did.
Good. Yeah, there was a place to describe your old computer online, and I don't know if they're still doing it that way.
They are still doing it. They're still doing it. Yep.
I'll send you a box to put your thing to send it back, and if it's as good as you said it is, they'll give you that much for a trade-in.
Yeah, I did it on my old Apple. When I turned in my iPhone 7 for the iPhone 11 Pro, I got a trade-in, and I had an older Mac. It wasn't the most recent MacBook Pro because I wasn't sure, but I had an older laptop, and I turned that in, and I got $300 for it. So I thought, what the hell? That's okay. I'll live with that.
Yeah. Well, they quoted me $500 for my.
Well, this was about a 7-year-old machine, so I'm surprised I got that much. But
hey, Greg,
I ended up buying this off of Apple's refurbished list. And if you buy something refurbished from Apple, that just means somebody brought it back for whatever reason, a scratch, or it didn't work, or it was too much money, or they didn't order it with enough RAM, or whatever it is. The law says, now not everybody pays attention to that, the law says it can't be resold as brand new. Apple takes 15% off the sticker price for the refurb stuff. So when I decided I wanted a 16-inch here, 2-3 months ago, I started looking about every 3 or 4 days on the Apple website for refurbished Apple PowerBooks. And they shipped it directly to my house. So that was a pretty good deal, I thought.
Right. The only thing wrong with that is, like you said, they don't have every make and they don't have every
whatever they have
all
available.
The time. They only have things that people return or whatever. Right. So you just
when a brand new item comes out, you won't see them for months. You won't see them for a couple of months.
Right. I bought to order one with a bigger hard drive than anybody's return a computer with, because right now I can't get my photo library on my Mac. It's on a separate drive. I do have it up on the cloud, but I don't trust that. So
well, sometimes what you can do, Ralph, like in this case, I wanted to get a 2 terabyte internal. My older PowerBook had a half a terabyte, And so I wanted to get a 2 terabyte internal, and the only ones that were available were 1 terabytes. But I called the Apple store, and I could have it shipped to the Apple store, and they would charge me the difference to take out the 1 terabyte and put a 2 terabyte in. And I chose, to hell with it. I've been living with a half a terabyte for 8 years. I guess I can live with a 1 terabyte for a couple more years, because almost everything I do is on external drives anyway.
Yeah, I'm going to need more than that if I want to get my photo library back.
Well, I think you can get up to an 8 terabyte internally. Now, the chances of you finding one in refurbished stock probably isn't available. But if you call the Apple store, they can work out a deal for you.
Grand, yeah.
Yeah, they can work a deal out for you.
Ralph, if you're doing, if you've got photos that you want to store, you could consider doing what I do. I keep all of my photos except the ones that I happen to be editing at the time. I keep them all on external drives. And that way I free up the memory. I've got this computer has a 1 terabyte SSD in it. And I only keep programs on that drive, along with the photos or documents that I'm currently working on. As soon as I'm done working on them, they go right over to the external drives, and it's cheap.
That's exactly what I'm doing now, but I want to get everything on my computer. I want to be able to take my photo library with me.
Well, I don't blame you. I carry extra drives when I do that. So,
and I've got probably 3 backups of everything I use. So, I also have 2 versions of my photo library. And that's a long story. They screwed my library up when I uploaded it to iCloud. Yeah, they screwed it up. They wiped out all of my
albums.
There's two versions of there's like folders, and then there's
albums.
Help me out with that. Another word, something that you would put inside of folders, and there would be another folder, right?
Folder within a folder. Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah, right. Well, they wiped all that second generation out, so they just stuck it all into 1 folder. You know, like for example, I had 8 different trips to Yosemite, right? And I kept them all in separate by years. Okay, so I had like 2004, 2005, you know, whatever, and kept them all separate, and then put all those inside of another folder called Yosemite, right? And what they did is they wiped everything out that was inside, every subfolder out, disappeared. And all the Yosemite stuff is in 1 folder. It's ridiculous. So what I did, fortunately, I still had my old copy. And what I did is I made a separate copy, copy of that, and I kept that on an external drive, and I wouldn't let iCloud touch it.
That's one of many reasons why I will not use cloud storage for photographs. Never.
Well, right now there is an advantage, and I do have all my photos up on the cloud right now, but I still have that second library.
Just in case.
Just in case. And the difference between the two is I can find things faster on the second library because I got it broken down into more modules. But what's good about the cloud is I take a picture with my iPhone, and it shows up on my iPad a couple of minutes later, and it shows up on my computer.
Right. Shows up everywhere, yeah.
Yeah, so
it's nice to have that feature.
That's the advantage. So I don't want to lose that. But in order to find anything, I have to know what year I'm looking for, because I can divide it up. I mean, I could arrange it by year. And if you do that, for example, if I knew that big fire that we had up in the hills over here, 2000 and I forget what it was, 8 or something. I could find it by just looking for the year. You can scroll real quickly and get to that year. You can find your pictures that way. But if you don't know what year it was taken, forget it.
I do
Anyway.
something very similar to that. In fact, I was just going to show it. Damn.
Anyway, what I'm going to do is get the 16-incher with a much larger hard drive, so I could take my photo library with me. Both versions of it, by the way. I'm going to have a separate, what would you call it when you divide up your hard drive into
Partition.
Partition. Yeah, I'll have a separate partition for the other for the library.
So here you can see I've got something similar to what you do, Ralph, on the screen here. You can see I broke it down into decades. Well, before 2001, I didn't care so much, but I broke it down into decades, and I broke it down into years, and inside the individual years, it's whatever albums I've got in between there. The New Mexico trip in 2009, my dog is a puppy, my mom and dad's dog is a puppy. Anything I ran across that fell into that category. So like, and I found for me, this works out pretty good doing it this way, but it's similar to what you're doing. So if I know exactly, well, it was a trip. If I named the album something halfway decent, I can find it regardless. But at least I can see what year it was, so I can point to it right away. If somebody says, well, it was in 2015, we were over at your mom's house. I can say, well, here's what I know that I have from 2015 when I worked at Broadcom and GDR. While my dad was stuck in the hospital, that kind of crap. I can find it pretty easy that way, doing it that way. So,
Greg, if you'll let me share screen here,
sure.
I can show Ralph what my setup is like. The way I do it, this is on, can everybody see the screen right now?
Only you.
Yeah, you haven't shared it.
Oh, I have, woman, what's going on here?
Well, you have to pick a screen of some sort to share.
I see, I got to click the right screen. Okay.
Normally it's the one called desktop one. There
Yeah.
you go. Now we're seeing all the big list of folders.
Now over here, I have, this is in my main storage for the photograph that's off of the computer. This is an external drive. And you'll see that with the exception of a few of them, everything here is filed by date and title. So for example, right here, this is in 2006, 2006, 8th month, 25th day, Niagara Falls. And it goes all the way down, and everything is in chronological order, plus it's got a name attached to it. And then of course, I copy it over to my Drobo and a couple of other external drives I'll put up on the thing. But that's how I do it, and it's worked very well, and I can find things very quickly that way. There's several ways to do it. That's just how I happen to do it.
Well, you do a better job of naming all your photos than I do. I don't rename much of them. I just go by the year.
I don't rename the individual photos. Those things, the ones that are edited, will have names on them, and everything. I keep all of the raw files, even the duds, are kept, and those are not touched. Then I have within each of those files that I showed you, I've got files for the edited ones and so forth. So I can find things quickly, and the edited ones have descriptive names associated with them. But I don't do the format that I showed you there on the edited files. They maintain the original camera recorded file date and then title following that. Not the file date, but the file consecutive number.
Cool.
You know, another thing that Apple does, which I don't like, is when they upgrade the OS, especially on the iPad or iPhone, they make changes to my photo library in structure. Like, for example, right now, I'm just taking a look at my iPhone, and I don't know if you can see that, but there's like 79 and 80 it's showing there, okay? And I can click on one of those two, and it'll show me all the pictures that were taken that year. But I previously had everything in just a simple list, which I could scroll through very quickly. But they changed the interface just based on a new OS, and that's because it's up on it's in iCloud. That's why. So another reason to keep the complete photo library on a separate hard drive. You don't want them to change it.
Yeah, I kind of wish they had the ability to their way and my way. I kind of wish they had an option like that. So my way would be just keep it the way I got it.
Right.
Or let Apple set it up the way they think they should. I kind of wish they had that option.
So anyway, I'll go ahead and take a look at that.
The Mac Tracker?
Mac Tracker, yeah. And once I get my older computer converted over, that's the one I'm worried about. It's showing me signs that it's going to fail pretty soon.
Yeah.
Sometimes it makes a lot of noise, and sometimes it gets really hot. The fans are going like crazy, and then sometimes it just shuts down by itself, but it always comes back. But I've got to get rid of that computer because it does have stuff on there I don't want to lose, and it won't run on today's operating system. I need to have something that'll run iWork 09, which is Pages 4.3. And as soon as you get to the next version of Pages 5.0, they dumb down the whole darn application. I don't know why they do that. They've been doing that with a lot of applications. By the way,
Wouldn't it be simpler if they had a preference that said keep the interface the way it was and just give you the new features, or simplify a simplified version or a pro user version kind of thing?
Hasn't anybody ever asked Apple why they don't give us choices instead of?
I'm sure we can't be the only ones who think of these ideas. So
well, Apple does their own thing, and what they do is they're dumbing down a lot of apps that were used to run only on the Mac. They're dumbing them down so they'll be compatible with the iOS. That's what they're doing.
Okay. All right.
And right now I've got 2 books that are over 300 pages, that are, I'm still in making changes to one of them. And they're facing pages when you look at them.
Yeah, I like looking at facing pages. I like that better because that's the way it looks.
Yeah, that's the way a book looks. And if you were to use the latest version of Pages, you might as well don't use, if you're going to write a book, don't use Pages, because
you should try out Publisher from Affinity. You get like a 30-day trial. You should see how you like that.
Yeah, I might do that, but I'm still working with that with the book that I created already, and don't want to make any major changes to it, but I'm still making minor changes.
Okay, if I could just interject briefly here. I just dumped a whole bunch of links and stuff to the chat area. It didn't seem to be putting it in the main chat area, so I created a file and attached it, and then it sent that okay. And after I did that, my stuff that I put in directly showed up too. So I've got it both as a file attachment and as the direct text in the chat window for everybody to look at all the things that I and others talked about today and links to.
Thanks, Bruce. I appreciate that.
The only thing
Great.
I didn't put in is anything about X Protect and Gatekeeper, which is kind of advanced topic stuff anyway.
By the way, Ralph, I just put a query in on Google for facing pages in Mac Pages, and by golly, there's set up facing pages in the page layout document.
And
I did a Google search. I typed in facing pages in Mac Pages.
in pages 5.0,
Oh, it's going to be the latest one.
you sure?
I'm looking to see what the date is on that.
Because as far as I'm concerned, there are two different applications. And the people that advise online, you know, these guys that'll answer your questions online, volunteers, the guys who are specialists in pages agree with me that they really did a bad job when they went from 4 to 5.
Would it make sense, Ralph? Are you having your books actually published?
Actually, I had one published, and I decided not to, hard copy too, you know, hard covers, 370 pages. And I would have had it sold for probably over $100 to sell the darn thing. And no one's gonna pay that much for a book. So what I did is I just ordered 20 copies and distributed them to family and friends.
Okay, excuse me, the publisher, the book publisher that you used, have you talked to them? Because maybe, I don't know how publishers do it, since I've never had a book published like that, but maybe you don't have to do it the facing pages. Maybe they have software that will automatically convert yours to the facing pages that they'd use to publish it, and then you'd get that back as galley proofs.
Well, that may be. The publisher that I use does not help you sell your book. They just print. They'll just print them, and they do a beautiful job of converting. The first book I had was almost a picture book because it was documenting my trip back east for 4 weeks of visiting American Revolution sites. I think Greg has a copy of it, right?
Hey, I do have a copy of it. By the way, Ralph, I just figured out how to do it in Pages.
In Pages 05?
Yep, because that's what I've got on this thing, that you can do it. You click as you're looking at the document, you click on, up in the upper right-hand corner, there's a choice that says Format and then Document. If you click on Document, it shows page orientation. If you look a little farther down below page orientation, about the third or fourth section down, there's an option for facing pages. And then you can select whether you want left and right pages to be different or the same.
And this is 05.
This is, I'll make sure.
I mean, Pages not 05, Pages 5.0 or 5 plus.
Well, they call it version 10.1.
Wow, that's new to me.
That's the current version. That's the current version on Catalina.
Okay, so maybe they've upgraded it since I was working on it. But Pages, the Pages version just beyond the one that I used would not have that feature.
Well, it's definitely there in the
I
current
use
version.
Pages.
Say that again.
Go ahead,
I use
Janine.
Pages with the facing pages all the time.
It's not what I would like to have seen happen, but you saw what Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, Secretary of Treasury, admitted.
Cool. Well, that's interesting to know. Looks like it does exist, at least in this version.
Well, okay. If it says 10.0, that sounds like it's a different program to me, because jumping from 4 to 10 sounds like a big jump.
Well, it says 2005 to 2019. So in the where it has the acknowledgments and all that crap out. So I assume that this format's been around since 2005. So
Well, I think I've been working on it after that date, so I don't know what happened. I pretty much reviewed it completely, and I'm pretty sure that what I
what's the
said.
late on your multiple computers? What's the latest OS you have?
Okay, I think the latest OS I have is 10.13.
Okay, so that's High Sierra, yeah.
Yeah, High Sierra, yeah.
So why don't you, while you're on the line here, why don't you go into Pages on that machine, if you still have it there.
Well, it's in a different room.
Oh, okay. Don't worry about it then.
Yeah.
You can give me a call later, and we'll try setting this up if you want to.
Actually,
it'd be interesting to know whether it does work or not. I find it real hard to believe that they would have let it not exist for such a long time. Usually, what happens is Apple rat holes it somewhere that's so stupid you can't think about it.
Yeah, I'm still working on the second book, but just minor changes. If I were to decide to write another one, I would probably use something like Microsoft Word or something. I wouldn't even use the Apple one.
Well, having been a technical writer, but before I retired, I can make a couple of comments about book publishing and things like facing pages and that kind of thing. And again, I worked as a technical writer, not a general book author. So that means that the books that I wrote and worked on were published by the company I worked for internally. Well, we did our own publishing and printing usually, and not internally, but they were made and sold to customers or given to them with our equipment. Let me just say that there are programs like, it's not FrameMaker, which used to be a separate company. It's now part of Adobe. I think it's still available. And also the Adobe Suite, the full-blown Acrobat.
Creative Suite.
Yeah, well, the Acrobat part of it, not Acrobat Reader, but Acrobat.
Okay, right. The actual
Those
Acrobat
two
program.
programs, FrameMaker and Acrobat, allow you to do things like you're talking about, facing pages, and you could do a lot of other things too, like create a table of contents. You can, tag things to be included in the contents. You can tag things to go in the index and automatically create an index. And if you do it right, the contents in the index pages will be hot links, meaning that when somebody opens it on a computer, not in a paper form, they can click on the page number in the front in the contents and go right to that page, or they can go to the index in the back, click on an item in the index and go right to that.
They're all hyperlinks.
They're all hyperlinks or some type of link, whatever you want to call them. Now, any good book publisher that you would work with should have the capability to do that and relieve you as an author of having to do that yourself. Now, if you're going to self-publish, that means you do everything and send it to a printer, then it's up to you. You're going to have to do the facing pages and anything else you want. and then just make sure it's print ready and send it off to a printer unless you're doing only electronic publishing. Okay?
Yeah, that's essentially what I did. I worked with a company that did a beautiful job of printing the book, but they don't help you sell it like Amazon does, for example. But I did try to use Amazon, by the way, and ordered a soft cover version of it. And they did a terrible job of converting the colors from my
yeah,
from
that's
my
one thing about it. If you're willing to tackle it yourself, if you're willing to take on those jobs yourself, you can control the whole process from start to finish and make sure that problems like that don't happen. But it makes extra work for you. Plus, you've got to have the software to do it.
If I had Adobe software, I could probably have just made a CMYK version of it, and probably Amazon would have then probably been able to do a better job of reproducing the colors. But they claim that my problem was I had RGB. But you know, the company I worked with took the RGB and they converted it themselves, and they did a better job because they know their own equipment, right? Every company has a different way of doing it, and they did a beautiful job of converting the colors.
My next to the last position was as a technical writer for a company that made computer printers, big printers, and we did our books for those printers in FrameMaker, Adobe FrameMaker. And we did everything in the Tech Pubs department ourselves in terms of page layout, making hot links and all that stuff. And then we would create a PDF out of that. And we used some Adobe software to do the PDF, but most of the dirty work was actually done in FrameMaker. Once we made a PDF of the whole book and we were satisfied with it, we'd send it to our, I don't know what they called themselves. It was basically the print department. And they had big, huge printers from, I don't know whether it was Docutech, is that one? Anyway, or Xerox or somebody.
Xerox is Docutech.
They could, that machine, that big printing machine would take a single PDF file and run off multiple copies of a book, you know, as many as you wanted. It would print them. It was a very expensive machine to bind them and do all that stuff. But, you know, I mean, we did everything ourselves in-house, but we had to learn how to do a lot of it or figure it out as we went along. And some things were not obvious. Like, for instance, I worked on a manual, which was a maintenance manual. And because it was, you know, like an inch or inch and a half thick in one volume, we had more pages, more like 2 or 3 inches thick. We had to split it up into 2 volumes. And that was okay, except that now you've got 2 files and you want to make hot links that go to places in both files. So in the contents, you want to have the contents for the whole book, not just volume 1. And you want the reader to be able to click anywhere in that contents and be taken to volume 1 or volume 2 if they're reading the electronic version. And when it gets printed, you want it to, the other problem is with page numbering. When you print, you want the page numbers to go properly, either start over at 1 or not start over at 1 and so on. So there's a lot of subtleties. A good publisher would have the capability to do all that and know how to do it. Now, some of them, you know, I'm sure they vary in their capabilities, and I don't know whether it's better to do it yourself or not, but you would have the expense of getting the software and learning how to use it if you go that route. But if you could do it in, what was it, Greg, Pages, and set up the facing pages, maybe that's all you need to do, and get it print ready and send it out to a print house, and you could self-publish it.
Well, like I said, I've done.
Let me show you what I got. I don't know if you can see this. Where would I have to show it there?
There you
go.
Yeah, it looks like
you need to turn off your virtual background. It freaks out when people do that.
It's like Washington crossing Delaware or something.
Virtual background, how do I do that?
Okay, down there in the lower left-hand corner, you see where it says, shows a picture of the video camera and it says stop video.
Lower left corner?
Lower left-hand corner of your screen.
Mine is at the
Icon,
top.
there's one that shows a microphone and one that shows a video camera. There should be an up caret just to the right of the video camera. And you click on that.
Green? I get a menu. I get a menu.
Okay. Okay. You see the little video camera on your screen somewhere where it says stop video? It's when you don't want your picture to be shown. When you want to turn off your camera. In my case, it's down in the lower left-hand corner that shows a microphone so I can mute my sound.
Yeah.
And
Mine is up.
Okay, that's fine.
I think
You see a little
video.
He accidentally clicked on stop video.
Okay, do you see a little up caret to the right of it or to the left of it?
Yeah.
Click on that.
Okay, I get a menu.
Okay.
Drop the menu.
One of the menu options is to come on.
There's about 10 of them. Screen photos, iCloud Drive, Dropbox, Microsoft OneDrive, Google Drive, Box, website.
Wow, I only get 3.
He doesn't have his camera on. That's
Yeah,
I think it turns that off. I think it turns that off. Yeah.
camera on.
Okay,
Click
so
on
Now I can't
play
get to mine.
camera icon and turn your camera back. There you go. Now pull up that menu.
And there should be an option that says choose virtual background.
Go and click on that menu.
No, same thing.
On his
Screen-
old, he might have an older version of Zoom because his might not. That computer might not take the latest version like we have.
Okay, mine all of a sudden the up caret stopped working, so that takes care of that. Oh well. Anyway, go on, Ralph.
More.
Greg, can you take over his machine to?
No, not in this program.
Okay.
There's virtual back. No, virtual background's still there.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, he can also go to the Zoom icon in the menu and click on preferences, and he'll get all the preferences, and it
Yeah,
has
that's true.
virtual
You can do that.
background.
Ralph, just go ahead and tell us about your book if you can. Were you just showing the cover, or were you wanting to
I
show
want to show
more?
you the cover and an example of one of the inside pages. Virtual background. I could see virtual background. If I click on it, it just comes right back. Stop video. No.
No, you don't want that.
It doesn't give me.
You should be able to just go to the zoom.us menu near the Apple menu in the upper left corner of your screen, then pick preferences off the zoom.us menu. And then on mine, at least, it says backgrounds and filters. You click on that to get to your virtual background settings.
Yeah, when you get it, if you go to Zoom's preferences and you open that up, you'll see a list. One of them says video, and I'm sorry, farther down there's an option for virtual background, and you can click on none. This is where you pick whatever background you want to use.
Yeah.
I am looking at a Zoom menu, and it doesn't have that feature.
Okay, you may be looking at the wrong Zoom menu. Go and just hit the key combination Command and comma. Command is just the left of the space bar, and the comma key. Hit those two keys together.
What space bar? I'm using an iPad.
Oh, no.
Okay.
It won't work.
No, that's different.
That's big difference.
That's a whole different world.
My iPad wouldn't do that. I have an old iPad and it didn't have a virtual background.
I started out with just a picture of Greg, and with my picture in the corner, and then I went to include everybody.
I'm
But
not sure.
I can't go backwards.
I'm not sure if you do it in the Zoom app or in the settings app under Zoom.
Yeah, I don't have my iPad here with me, so I don't know.
I don't know either, but
Obviously, there has to be a way to do it, or he wouldn't have been able to bring up a virtual background.
yes, but the directions are different than they would be for the Mac.
Screen, photos, iCloud Drive, Dropbox, website. None of that makes any sense to me.
Oh well, don't worry about it. Just hold the book up again, but hold it closer to the camera if you can.
Go on and do the best you can.
Hold it in
That
front of you.
seems to work at that angle right there. We can see most of it.
Yeah.
It kind of gets that nice Casper the Ghost effect, unfortunately, but it's a beautiful book. I've got a copy of it. It's a beautiful book.
You can see the subtitle there.
Yep.
Touring the birth.
I couldn't read the whole. I don't have my copy with me right now.
Touring the birth of the United States of America.
Beautiful.
That's the subtitle. The title is, I don't know. No, that's just, yeah, I'm gonna have to turn off that background. The inside page.
I couldn't find it in the Zoom app on my iPad, but maybe you have to be in a meeting to do it. I'm in the meeting on my iMac, not on the iPad. So I looked in the Zoom under the gear menu, which is usually settings, and I looked in the settings app under Zoom and couldn't see anything about virtual background anywhere.
Yeah, I wonder maybe if that's something, if you've set it up on your Mac, the next time you log in, it picks that up from whatever device you're on.
No, I don't think so. I don't even have a Zoom account. I've never needed to create one. I just go to the meeting. As long as I'm not hosting, as long as a person's not hosting, they apparently don't need to have an account with Zoom.
It picks up your email, Bruce. It knows what your email is, so.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I've never created an account with a password on Zoom's website for me.
No, you don't have to do that. I think it tracks it by your email.
Ralph, do you have a Zoom account, or do you just rely on clicking on the link?
I just clicked on your link on my iPad. That's it.
That's why he doesn't have all of the selections and stuff in it, because he does. It's basically a default thing, apparently, when you don't actually have Zoom installed on your computer. The solution to it might be to install Zoom on the computer.
Yeah, I should probably do that.
He's using an iPad though, Bart, right now, not an
Install. They have a Zoom, the program version. If you go to their website, they've got it for the iPad, and they've got it for the iPhone, and they've got it for Android. Whatever.
Yes, I know, Bart. I have both the app for the iPad and the Mac app, right? But the
I think that's
versions are different.
Problem.
I think Greg's logging in with his iPad here.
Yeah, I'm looking on my iPhone.
You got to mute at least one of your audios or turn the volume down on one of the two or something to avoid feedback and echo problems.
Well, I don't know how to turn that feature off. I turned it on probably the last time, last week, or not last week, but the last time we were together. And it was obvious then, but now there's nothing here that tells me. I got something that says like participants, and I started out with only one. And now I can't undo that.
Well, just do the best you can to hold the book up to the camera, I guess, for now. We'll try to figure this out later. But
only one picture instead of everybody. Right now, I've got 9 people showing. Screen, photos, iCloud Drive? No. Google Drive, Box. Huh. Photos.
By the way, Greg, as soon as I noticed that Apple had come out with a new 16-inch model MacBook Pro, I immediately thought of you and a few years ago when you had the 17 and you were at a crossroads there because they discontinued that model. And I thought, boy, I know somebody that's going to get the first 16-inch that rolls off.
It took me a year to get it. I mean, it came out last September, or last October, something like that. And Robert bought one. I was unsure about the touch bar. I'm still unsure about the touch bar.
What do you mean about whether it's reliable or whether it does?
No, it's definitely reliable. But the problem is, like, if I'm listening to a video or something like that, and I need to raise the volume, I haven't found a way of keeping the up volume, down volume buttons lit up all the time. It toggles itself off and on. So it comes up with you get an option for, and you can customize it. You get an option for turning the sound off or on, or the speaker, you hit the speaker button, and that brings up the slider control where you can raise the lower. Believe it or not, I find it faster to go up with the mouse and go up to the hidden menu at the top and do it there.
Well, it could be that that's either an energy saving feature, mainly for battery, or it could be, in the case of the brightness, something where they don't want the keys on when you're in a darkened room trying to watch a video. You don't want light coming from the keyboard.
It runs independent of the keyboard light. It runs independent of the keyboard.
Either way, there may be a setting in the preferences under energy savings or something, energy settings, or whatever it's called in the preferences. There may be something in there, or maybe there's a separate, I don't know, is there a separate preferences pane for the touch bar itself?
Yeah, there is.
Well, it seems logical they would be in there if they have.
But the only thing, all it does is give you the options to drag in what choices you want for the application that you're using it for. So I'll have to play with it some more and figure it out. It's better than what it was when I first. I love the machine itself. It's better than, but I guess part of the problem is it's sitting at a low enough angle. Even though I've got a riser on the bottom, I need to tilt it up even more because I can't quite see it at this goofy desk that I'm sitting at. This chair is too low, and so I can't quite see it. I have to kind of, about half the time I hit the brightness button, and I just soon not have that one up there at all. So again, I know I can go in and customize. I just haven't done it.
Greg,
like Bruce, you actually have to work. You have to actually put some effort into it, and I haven't done it yet.
Greg, isn't your chair adjustable for height?
Not this piece of junk, no.
Oh.
It's about 2-3 inches too low. It's hell with an artificial leg. It's hell for me to get out of this chair, and it's almost at the point where I'm going to throw it in the pool. It's almost at that point.
Well, don't do that because then you'll have to fish it out of the pool, and that's harder than throwing it in.
No, I'll have a rope on it before I do that. So I thought about bringing in a lawn chair would work better than this piece of junk.
You need to get you a couple of pool goats. You know, goats will eat anything. If you get pool goats, you throw the pool goats in the pool first.
Hey, believe it or not, I've got a pallet sitting outside that a piece of equipment came on one time when they were doing our roof, and I just never got around to getting rid of it. I was always going to cut it up and use it, burn it as firewood. And I thought about bringing that pallet in and setting it on the floor, but we had new flooring put in. My wife, I have a heart attack when I mentioned that to her, but that would raise it up about 4 or 5 inches. And, and I can live with that. So, no, the chair is, we've definitely decided because it's starting to fall apart. The chair, it was a cheap chair, and its cheapness is really coming through right now. So, it's a goner. I'm going to bring an actual office chair out and use it.
I got lucky with the one I'm using now. We went to an estate sale here, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. It's been a while since we moved here. And they were selling this chair, and it was at a fraction of the original price, and it really has no defects that I can see. So we snapped it up, and it's a great office chair.
Well, this isn't an office chair. This is
all back and everything.
This is a recliner. But the
Oh.
leg lift on it when the thing comes up to support your legs, that's fine. But if you lean forward just slightly, then the chair straightens up, leaving the leg lifts up. I have to shift my bulk of my weight. That's part of the problem. Farther back in the chair in order to be able to get it to lay out if I want to try to snooze in it. If I want to put the leg release down, I can't do it while I'm sitting in the chair. I literally have to straddle that leg brace, get up, and then push it back down either with my cane or my foot. It's always been that way. A piece of junk. And it's heated and it's got a vibration in it. That's crap. It was like a $300, $200 or $300 chair on deal from somewhere. It looked really good. It's really a piece of crap.
Yeah, you need to find a really good regular office chair, not a.
I have a regular office chair in my office, Bruce. I bought it just at my last job, just before I quit, because I was complaining about the chairs they had there. No matter what I did to any of their chairs, I couldn't make it any better. And they were willing to buy me one. And I thought, you know what? I don't know how much longer I'm going to be here. So I specifically ordered like a $500 office chair that did everything I wanted it to do. I quit the job and the chair showed up like 2 days later and they held it for me. And I went and picked it up, got it in the back of my Honda, brought it home, put it up, and I've had it in the office. I just need to bring it out, put it out here at this desk because I never use the office. The office is now for junk storage more than anything else. And just take this one out and throw it away.
Are you sure you put the chair in your Honda, or did you put your Honda in the chair?
Yeah. It was all we could do to get that. It was all we could do to get that unassembled chair in the box in the back of the Honda, but it fit. I would have put it up on the roof. I've got a roof rack. Worst case scenario, but
I would have put the Honda in the chair, attached a skateboard motor, and driven it home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, not really.
Put the chair on the roof. It would have reminded everybody of Imogene Coco, her body on the top of the
in Vacation.
Soup. What was it called? The
Vacation.
Yeah, in
Vacation.
What was the car he had? The super
Truckster.
What was it called?
It was called, I forget what it was, but the last part of the name was the Truckster. It was basically a modified station wagon.
Yeah, and the beautiful line was the car salesman. You think you hate it now, but wait till you drive it.
Yeah. But it also sort of putting the chair up on the roof would have looked a lot like the Clampetts coming to Beverly Hills, with Granny sitting up there. So.
Yeah.
Ralph, if you get a chance, I would download Affinity Publisher and just try it for the 30 days. I think it could probably import. I know it can import PDFs. So you could try just see how you like it, because that's a real publishing program. It's a one-time purchase. They just come out with updates on Affinity Photo and Affinity Designer recently, and I think it's a great product for a $50 investment. I think it's a great product.
What's the name of it?
Affinity, AFFINITY, and they make a Photoshop replacement called Photos. They make an Illustrator replacement called Designer, and they make a Microsoft Publisher or InDesign Publisher ripoff called Publisher.
Got it.
I use them.
I'm real impressed with the way they've done and besides that,
leave.
You get in a real bind. Take
Bye-bye.
care, Brenda. Take care. And the real good thing about them, if you got an issue and you can't find it resolved in any of their millions of people that are using the software, you can actually call the guy and he'll call you back.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That is unusual. I know people have said that Joe Kissel at Take Control of Books is very.
He's pretty good. He's real. Joe's real good
it,
about that too. Yeah.
He does it mostly through email, is my understanding.
Yeah, which is fine. I can live with that.
Yeah, that's fine as long as he's responsive, and he apparently is highly responsive from what I've heard.
He's much better than I forget the couple that had the Take Control books before. I forget their names.
Tidbits.
Yeah, Tidbits. Because they were so divided up to so many other things. But since Joe bought that line out or took that line over or whatever it is, he's extremely responsive about bringing updates and all kinds of things out. Real great. It was a real good move. I was really unsure about that, but it was a real good move.
Years ago, I took a business course at Cypress College, and his wife was the instructor.
Bill Kissel's wife?
Yeah. Oh, she is a tremendous instructor. She's really good. And a couple of times Joe came in and gave some presentations, but the two of them are really dynamite presenters.
Well, they live down in, I think it's San Diego or La Jolla, somewhere down.
It is something like that, Oceanside, somewhere in that area.
Yeah, somewhere in the San Diego or southern, south of Orange County area.
Yeah, but it was a, I forgot what the course was called, but it was basically for would-be entrepreneurs on basically how to set up a business, how to write a business plan, and stuff like that. And she was really good. I haven't communicated with them in years, though.
I at Macworld one year, I think it was 2004, pretty sure. I met him, and I also met Adam and Tanya Engst, who have.
That's the ones from Tidbits.
Yeah,
they're the ones who used to own the series.
And they're all very smart, knowledgeable.
Yes, they are.
And very strong advocates for the Mac and Apple, and always have been.
My mouse just died.
Is it battery operated?
No, it's rechargeable. I just need to plug it back in for a while.
Oh.
I always forget to check this. So, oh well. All right, guys. Well, if there's nothing else, I think we probably ought to go ahead and, unless there's anything anybody else has got an issue for, I will try to have a version of Big Sur up and running on the other Mac, hopefully for next month, so we can play with that some.
Okay, everybody don't forget to save the chat window.
Right, you get that option to save. Click on File.
I did.
Down at the bottom, it says File, and then click on the three dots and pick Save Chat if you want a copy of the text file.
Oh, okay.
But the trick is you have to do that before you leave the meeting, or at least before you quit Zoom. I don't know which. If you quit Zoom and everything, it's gone and it's too late.
It is gone. Yeah, and if you chose to record the meeting yourself, it prompts you. But
right, the meeting host can save it and send it by email.
Where is this thing that you click on?
Okay, first you have to have the chat window open.
So go click on the chat button down at the bottom if you don't have it open already.
Okay, and then
at the very bottom of the list, there's an option that says File.
Okay. There we go.
And click on the three dots, and it says Save Chat. When you do quit Zoom, one thing they put in the Zoom program, which I think is a nice feature, it conveniently opens that folder that the file is in for you in the Finder. So when you quit Zoom, you'll see a new folder open that wasn't open before, and it'll have the chat text file saved in there as a text file, which you can then open in a program like TextEdit by double-clicking it or something.
Can you save
the chat host can also save the chat and send it out by email to everybody.
Yeah, which I'll probably do.
Yeah, if they want to.
Can you save the whole Zoom session?
You have to record it, but
you're right.
But
only the host can do that, right?
No, anybody can record it.
Anybody can, but it's up to the host to allow it or not allow it.
And it's allowed. It's allowed. You can go up and record it.
But the host can turn it off. I think it's on by default, Greg.
But usually within a few days, I have it up at YouTube, so you can always get it at YouTube.
Okay. I was asking more as an academic question, knowing how to work a new aspect of Zoom I did not know before.
Yeah.
So, good. All right. Thank you.
By the way, in case I didn't tell you before, as far as the screen sharing thing, when you set up the meeting, the default is for you to have control. So you have to enable everybody. You can disable that.
I just did.
Yeah.
About the fourth or fifth one in here, security button's a new option that's added to my list. And there's an option to enable waiting room. Well, if you click on that, that means I have to manually click on each person to come in. So I turn that feature off. Just let them come in. I don't care.
I would to the only place where it's where I use waiting room, if I've got if I'm moderating something, I'm usually doing it on my own account, which is a free account, and it's limited to 40 minutes if you have more than myself and one other person. So what I'll do.
But you can do multiple 40-minute sessions. You can stop it and start it again.
A pain in the ass. Most people don't.
I agree.
So what I do is I use that waiting room, wait till everybody is in that waiting room.
And then lock it.
The thing in the meeting, the 40 minutes starts at that point. Instead of wasting time, you know, for
people to connect.
Yeah.
What we do here at the Washington Apple Pie for our Zoom meetings is we tend to have more participants in our Zoom meetings. We've had meetings sometimes as many as 50 or 60 people in one meeting at the same time. And the typical meetings aren't quite that big. It depends on who the speaker is. We had Dave Pogue one time and we drew a big crowd, you know. But anyway, the typical meetings maybe half that, like 30 people, but it's still a lot. And they tend to send out the email with the Zoom meeting ID and password a couple of days or more in advance, where Greg sends it out at the last minute.
Well, actually, Bruce, it's the same ID every month.
Well, yeah, but
people trash it; they forget about it. So that's why
what
I do it that
happens
way.
is ours that changes, or they I don't know if it's forced.
That's an option you can set up.
Yeah, they change it every time, both the ID and the password for security. And in the email, when they send it out, they tell people not to post it publicly, but there's no way to stop that. So because they like to send it out 2 or 3 days in advance, we use the waiting room feature. And what we do is we have one meeting host who then appoints a couple other people as co-hosts. And what one or more of the co-hosts do is it's their job to look at the list of people waiting and see whether they look like they're a club member or somebody we don't know from Adam. And if they look like a club member, we let them in right away. If not, then we have to figure it out, you know. But that works pretty good. And I've done that too. I've acted as co-host and let
The problem I find, Bruce, is I can't get anybody to volunteer to do anything.
You can't what?
I can't get anybody to volunteer to do anything.
Oh, well,
when I went on my 3-month trip to Alaska, I couldn't get Steve or Robert or anybody to take that over. They wanted me to do it while I was on the trip. Well, that ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, right. But with only the size of the group we've been running, I don't think we need to go to that much trouble.
Hey, Bruce, what's this black spot right here underneath your nose? You look like you got an Adolf Hitler special going there.
You mean the mustache?
Yeah.
What? It's not new. I've had that.
No, but it's gray all over here, but it's real dark right here where Hitler would have had his.
My wife says I should shave it off. She says shave that thing off, you'll take 10 years off your life, you know. And
when I shave my beard off, I look younger.
So I don't know. I've never taken her up on that, but
I always look.
What was that, Bart?
I say I always look young. I'm in a club. It's you know, a ham radio club for a repeater system that is a wide area system where it relays from repeater to repeater to repeater. Sure. And we typically have around 200 people at our Zoom meeting a month.
Do you use the waiting room for those meetings?
No.
Let everybody come in that has the link.
Come in, because we have a lot of people that are first time people that come in are trying to decide whether they want to.
So far, you haven't had any trouble with Zoom bombing or hijinks of any kind?
And at appropriate times, an announcement is made that, hey, if you're new to the group or visiting, put up your hands in the, I forgot what it's called. The thing, the moderator has it. No, we must have it too.
Raise your hand.
Yeah, it's the participants window.
And then basically the moderator goes down the list and have people introduce themselves.
Oh, that's nice. That's a nice touch.
Yeah.
Well,
Hey,
the most
Bart.
we've ever had, the most we've ever had was 51 people at one time.
Hey, Bart.
Our average is around 15 to 18, something like that.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you a question, but you already answered it. Is that I noticed the equipment on your left side there looks like ham radio equipment.
Oh yeah. Let me just.
What's your call letters?
WB6 WUW.
W. What's the last three? W what?
WUW.
WUW. WB6, huh? I used to be K9YNI, but when I moved out here, they made me drop it and change it to a WB6.
Well, I have AC60, and that's a California assigned call sign. And since I moved, I changed my address with the FCC, and renewed my license, but I still have the same call letters. They used to require you to change when you moved out of the call district to a different one. They haven't done that for a long time, so now you can keep your call, or you can trade it in on a new, you can apply and get a different one.
Yeah, you can get anything now, but when I was doing it years ago, if you were a 9, you were like in Illinois area. If you're
right,
you moved out to
Illinois, Wisconsin, and Indiana.
You went to West Coast, you had to change it to 6.
Right, and it's no longer required, but now it kind of screws it up for knowing where somebody is when you're on the air. You don't know if they have a 6, if they're in California like they really would be, or whether they're like me and you've moved out of California or something.
Right, yeah.
Well, I mean, technically, that's how Social Security works. It's regionally set up that way, and theoretically, that's the way the phone system used to work. But with cell phones, you can have them anywhere.
Right, right. Yeah, that's why our cell phones still have 714 area code, even though, because we kept our old numbers. Even
Sure,
here
which makes sense. Yeah.
Everybody, we don't have to change our number with anybody that way.
No,
At least
I think
not
I
on our
personally think
cell
that makes
phone.
more. I personally think that makes much more sense because it'd be
Right.
horrible if you had to like change your name when you move from one side of the country to the other side.
Right, it ties the number to you or your name, not to where you are. But although we had to do that with our home phone, we dropped the home phone and got a new number here for that, but for the landline phone. But yeah, I could get a new call sign, which would be a 3. The third call district covers Maryland, DC, and I think Delaware or something. Anyway, I could get one, but the problem is, four character call signs are scarce as hen's teeth now. And I couldn't get a nice short call sign. I'd have to get one with 5 or 6 characters, and I don't want to do that. So I'll keep my short call sign.
I don't know what happened, but in the middle of the sentence, my main monitor basically shut off completely. My other monitor did not shut off, and I had to reboot to bring things back up. What in the world would cause that?
Got me. I have no idea.
A blackout.
Yeah.
Rolling blackout.
Anyhow, someone asked to look at the radio station. Oh, why am I
don't know unless there's a loose.
I'll bet you're pulling a cable loose or something when you rotate that Mac.
Bart,
I'll bet you're pulling a cable loose or something.
I don't know if you can hear me, but your video is frozen, Bart. You're completely frozen now. I bet he can't even hear us. He probably pulled his cable modem connection out.
I'll bet that's what he did. I'll bet he pulled the
His
connection.
cable modem is right there nearby.
Right.
Unless it's changed, it comes into where his ham station and his computers are. And I'll bet you he pulled the cable out of the modem. Oh, well, what are you going to do? You gotta love it, right? Technology, you gotta love it.
Yeah,
Hey, to me, for the price we're paying, we can't bitch too much. So
no, I'm very grateful.